begin. You're in too deep to go back again. Cash is pay to play. You want more hits than lemonade. No, you don't own me. You don't even know me. This vagabond with a two-part path to the great beyond. Say genuine, a ground floor up I can help you find. You're a dreamer, call me when you're Bieber. And when they play it, you can't help but sing along. That's nothing odd, that's nothing wrong. 'Cause a good song never dies. It just reminds you of where you were the first time it made you cry, the first time you felt live. No, a good song never dies. Like a lover who won't back down. They pull you over to the side, look you straight into the eyes. No good songer. No good songer. The first time they made you cry, the first time you felt live. No good songer. A good song never dies. It just reminds you of where you were the first time it made you cry, first time you felt alive. No good song never. 'Cause a good song never dies.
Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of absolutely epic and entertaining action in the Alpha Touring Challenge Season 17 as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC known as iRacing and proudly sponsored by both Syncmesh and Glass of Steel Photography and Design. That's right, another week has flown us by and with another week it's time for another round of intense racing action. Today it's round number 6 of 12 and we complete the first half of the season by almost completing our tour of the US of A, although we've got one more round in the North American continent as of next week. However, here today we complete our street circuits in the US of A and we have made our way to the streets of Chicago in the state of Illinois for the one and only Chicago Street Course. Originally conceived on iRacing in 2021, it became a reality in 2023 for the NASCAR Cup Series, and since then it has been a staple of NASCAR racing when noise pollution and also localities allow. And the best part of 2.14 miles in length is one of those circuits whereby it may be short, it may definitely be sweet, but it's also one of those circuits which is enabled to give our drivers a treat of absolutely heart-pounding racing action from lights out to checkered flag. With 12 corners enshrined into its length, these corners are all plenty enough wide for 2 if not 3 wide, and when it does mean that every corner presents an overtaking opportunity, and for each and every lap you can expect that no driver is going to feel safe until they get to the final finish line. And with 2 sprint races on the cards today, we can expect the racing action to be absolutely rapid and furious, and it's not going to be over until it's over, as they say, and when our drivers get to that finish line we'll have to wait and see how it all shakes up the standings. But where exactly are my manners? I forgot to welcome you all to this post-round broadcast from Circuit Side as you tune in tonight, catch up with all the racing action as if it were live on Monday, the 25th of May, 2026, we'll bring it to you as if it were live this Tuesday, the 26th of May. Therefore, in the commentary booth, we do not know what happens in the practice session, which is currently ongoing in the background, or alternatively, the upcoming qualifying session, and most critically, our two races on the schedule for today, with this being a sprint race round. And in the commentary booth, of course, you have myself. My name is Paul Walsh, and I shall be your host and commentator this season. As always, you're catching all these broadcasts in one place. You can catch them all on the internet, brought post round the day after the race occurs, and that's, of course, on youtube.com, and search for Paul's Productions or PWP, and why not subscribe today so that way you can stay up to date with all the latest racing action from Season 17 of the Alpha Touring Challenge. But in terms of our schedule for today, times in Eastern Daylight Time, that's EDT, or Universal Coordinated Time -4, UTC -4, we can see an approximately will be around about 9 minutes time. We'll make it way into our qualifying session, 10 minutes in duration, due to get underway at 9:15 today, after which we'll then be making the way to the grid for the first of our two 25-minute sprint races. Race number 1 due to get underway at 9:25, after which we'll take a brief breather before returning to the grid at 5 to 10 for our second race of the day with that all-important top 15 inverted grid. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring up to speed the story thus far after 5 rounds of racing and what exactly we can expect here today on the streets of Chicago. And as we can see, we have made our way then to the conclusion of the first half of the season. Today, it's Chicago, but last time out, we were on the West Coast in the US state of California for Long Beach Street Circuit. Now, on the 18th of May, we only got to see 29 of our drivers make the trip all the way to the West Coast, but to be fair, as we always like to say, quality outweighs quantity, and we saw plenty of quality racing throughout over the course of round number 5 in our 60-minute endurance race round. But the theme at the start, in qualifying in particular, was one where qualifying was exceptionally tight. Now, it was a shootout for pole position between Wojciech Swirydowicz and Michael Polasek, with the former beaten latter by only 600ths of a second. But John Lauzon was incredibly impressive as well, taking third place overall, and with it the Gamma pole position. He was only 100th ahead of Fleet Smith in their very tight and tantalising battle for pole. And we saw that tight spread of the field continue, running all the way from 3rd to 18th overall, with all those positions, the grand total of 16 positions, only be connected by a single second together. Delta pole went to Tyler Long by 0.16 seconds ahead of Corey Lobner, and the overall position of 11th place for Tyler Long far outweighed Lobner's second place in Delta, which translated into 15th overall. And what it meant was, in the Delta class at least, it was a very straightforward day in the race for Tyler Long, who made sure to prioritise track position and with it Delta position over his rivals. He let some of the Gammas and also the Alphas go, and come the end of the day, he brought home his first win of the season, and it really did feel as though we'd gone back to early season 16 form of Tyler Long, because he was absolutely impressive, no doubt about it. But what about in the Gamma class, the second tier of our classes? Well, we got to see John Lauzon in the end take victory, but it was not an easy day for him. In the end, it came down to strategy and a back-and-forth battle with Fleet Smith. Given the fact he took that pole position, you would have thought that given the gap between the two of them, only 100th, it was going to be exceptionally tight. And so it was right at the start of the race, even though we did have some big incidents going through the fountain section for the first time at Long Beach. We got to see plenty of drivers survive it, and with it, that battle for the Gamma lead, it never quite came to a halt until the pit stops came about. And when we did see the two-stop strategy play out for most drivers, although there was one exception, we'll come to that person very shortly, well, we got to see Fleet Smith decide to go for a short to long strategy, whereby his second stint would be short, his third stint would be much longer, and it looked all to be working out until he came up behind Cooper Akers, who refused to let go of position. And as a result for Fleet Smith, he suddenly saw what was an opportunity to try and turn the lead into his hands on strategy. He suddenly found himself with a 15-second deficit after his second pit stop, and John Lauzon was able to cruise away to take the win by 18.2 seconds. His second Gamma win of the season for John Lauzon, and it was all because he made sure to go the longest of the pair of them in the first stint, went the longest of the pair of them in the second stint, and therefore his coveted track position really came to fruition. But there was one driver who definitely did not go for the two-stop strategy, and that was an absolutely brilliant performance from John Daniels, who went from 13th to 9th in Gamma, doing a one-stop there. Nobody else dared to do it other than John Daniels, and then he pulled it off with aplomb. But we're talking about our second tier. What about our top tier, our alphas, if you will, an overall victory with it? Well, it was a very close battle between Wojciech Swirydowicz and Michael Polasek, and it didn't end at the finish line, because many of you may remember, of course, that Wojciech Swirydowicz crossed the finish line a grand total of what's only 4 attempts ahead of Michael Polasek. However, after their brilliant battle literally came down to the wire, and Michael Polasek had taken the lead through the opening 3 quarters of the race and spent the entire race being continuously chased by Swirydowicz until the penultimate lap, where he got caught up behind some drivers who were going the lap down, who were fighting each other, and Polasek got caught out coming out of the hairpin, and Swirydowicz was able to take the lead. Will Swirydowicz hold on to the end all the way to the finish line? In fact, it wasn't 4 attempts. I'll correct myself there. I need to get my eyes adjusted. It was 41 thousandths of a second that Swirydowicz took the win on the road. However, what we didn't know at the time during the broadcast was that Swirydowicz had picked up a slowdown penalty for cutting the pit exit line going on to the final lap, going into turn 1. And by picking up a slowdown, he tried to serve it through turns 2 through to 8. However, the way he was serving it was adjudged to essentially be serving it in a manner whereby he was excessively blocking Polasek, was trying to overtake him, given the fact that Swirydowicz had to bleed his pace to get rid of the slowdown penalty. And what it meant was that in post-round stewarding, a 5-second penalty was awarded to Swirydowicz, and the win was given to Michael Polasek. Well, how about that, ladies and gentlemen? And therefore, Polasek takes his second win of the season from Long Beach after stewarding. But to be fair to Swirydowicz, whilst it may not have been his third win of the season, it was incredibly close. It sets the tone for things to come, I say. But of course, that was all the big headlines from last time out. And of course, some of the other big headlines were some of the big incidents, and perhaps one of the most notable ones from Long Beach being the coming together between Matthew Meilleur and Francois Schink, coming out of the hairpin on lap number 7. And in the end, their fight for 5th place overall had a huge impact for both of them, and in particular for Meilleur seeing his race in the retirement room. And also we did see a huge impact for the barrier on lap 8 into turn 1 for Nicholas Shvedska after he was running so well in the top 5 fight for the Gamma class. But hopefully we see those drivers come back to form today. But of course, now we make our way to the Chicago Street Course. It is none other than round number 6. And after the sprint race round, we make our way into a quartet of endurance race rounds, starting off next time out, of course, on the 1st of June at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. And we get the 6th month of the year underway. It's crazy to think we are heading to peak summer already. Time is absolutely flying us by. But still, let's not ponder too much on that. Let's tell you a bit more about our circuit for today. Because, of course, it is the Chicago Street Course. Located on the streets of Chicago City in the US state of Illinois, 2.14 miles in length or 3.44 kilometers, depending on your preference of units. But what never changes is a grand total of 12 corners. And a huge thank you to the AlphaTouring Change administration for these wonderful cheat sheets that enable us really to get in depth with the circuit. Now, as we can see, in terms of our circuit ratings, tyre stress, this gets 3 out of 5. This circuit's quite moderate on tyre usage, to be fair. We do have some heavy braking zones out there. In fact, plenty of heavy braking zones. So that's definitely going to hurt the tyres. The front outside tyre, so typically will be the front left tyre because this is a clockwise circuit, some more right-handers than left-handers, but we also do see there's quite smooth corners out there as well as some sharp 90-degree angled corners, and that means tyre stress is not as high as it could be. But heavy braking, it definitely gets a 5 out of 5 here today, and the fact we have plenty of heavy braking zones, including the run into turn 1, the run into turn 2, also the run through turns 3, 4 and in towards turn number 5, where you brake through 4 into turn number 5, and you've also got the heavy braking zones of turn 6, 7, and also into 11 and 12. There's more heavy braking zones than there are any other types of corner around this circuit, and indeed with all those 90-degree corners, it is going to make it a very challenging one when it comes to managing the brakes. Overtaking difficulty, it gets a 5 out of 5 as well. Now this, of course, is a double-edged sword. This circuit's plenty wide enough for overtaking opportunities, but you've got to be very brave, and you've got to be very bold to make those overtakes happen, and should you be side by side with your rival going into a corner, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to be coming out ahead on the exit of the corner, because your rival can always fight back. And that's the thing about the Chicago Street Course, of the fact once you get into a fight, you've got to be ready to land a knockout blow very quickly, otherwise that fight may go on for a long period of time and see your rivals just at the road break away. Now, as for off-tracks difficulty, we give that a 1 out of 5 because understanding with many a street circuit, there's very few run-off areas. We do have a couple, but these are typically run straight off and you don't come back unless you get the car completely turned around. So that's why it's very difficult to get an off-tracks. The only other way you get an off-track is by going to a barrier, and unfortunately you'll probably be towing into the pit lane. Now, pit entry is difficult because it is a very tight run through the final corner to get into the pit lane, and as for the pit exit, just as difficult as well because you're essentially on the outside going through turn number 1. You have to be mindful of those who have not come into the pit, making sure to maintain their position first before you're able to fit back into the running order. On top of that as well, in terms of our symbology, in terms of overtaking zones, we don't really have any recommended overtaking zones around this circuit, and that goes to the nature of being a very difficult circuit to overtake at, but one where you can try and overtake at most places. What we do have is plenty of references for past instance, and typically at turns 1, 5, 8 and 11, and the squeeze at turn number 8 definitely can catch out many an unacquainted driver with the circuits. The circuit does narrow through there, or the sweeping section of turns 8, 9 and 10, and the drivers need to be ready for it, and also it then throws the drivers out in towards turn number 11. As for early traffic jams at the start of the races, we can expect definitely some traffic jams into turn number 1, much like any circuit, but also through turns 4 into 5, and also the run of turn 7 through to 8, and we can see the field definitely concertina up there in the early stage of the racing. But it should be 2 very exciting races today, and on the streets of Chicago, you can be certain of one thing, which is always going to be interesting in Illinois. But in terms of our rules before we go racing, just to give you a quick reminder of the rules. Well, we do have open setups as always in the AlphaTouring Challenge. That means our drivers bring a setup of theirs their choosing to each and every race day session. Now, as for our sprint races, the races shall commence via a standing start as an edition of the AlphaTouring Challenge, indeed touring car race in general, and the grid for race number 2 shall be set based on the results of race 1, with the top 15 finishing positions inverted. So what that means in layman's terms is essentially our drivers finish race 1, and the winner of race 1 starts in 15th place overall for race number 2, and we continue that inversion until we get to the 15th place finisher in race 1, and you guessed it right, they'll start on pole position for race number 2, and those who finish 16th and downwards, well, they'll be starting exactly where they finish in race 1 when they go onto the grid for race number 2. Now, there are no mandatory pit stop requirements in the races. We're not expecting any pit stops today unless the driver picks up damage, of which they do have one fast repair available in each race. Alternatively, if they've been cheeky enough to pick up 15 or more instant points, then they will get a drive-through penalty. However, they double that to 30, they will be disqualified, but hopefully we don't see that, and all race stewarding shall be conducted post-race. But with haste, let's make our way back to circuit side, and just as we're about to get the qualifying session underway, bring it up to speed with the championship standings as we come into our 6th round, and starting with the overall Drivers' Championship. Well, the Alpha Championship is properly done. Here we can see Wojciech Swirydowicz lead of 594 points. His advantage has been brought down to 80 points over Matthew Meilleur. But just remember as well that drop scores are now being applied. And there are 2 drop scores for this season. So that's why that gap has suddenly shrunk massively. However, Swirydowicz does have the firmest foundations of everybody when it comes to his overall championship campaign. And remember, the Season 7 champion looking for his 2nd crown. And will have recently sealed the deal with regards to the NXTCC, the European equivalent to the AlphaTouring Challenge. He sealed the deal for his 3rd championship crown in Season 10. Well, right now that's only going to motivate him even more to potentially go for the double this season. But you do see behind the Beaver and D's driver, Matthew Meilleur. And well, last time out was a difficult day for him, qualified in 5th place and looked to be locked into a fight for 5th place with Francois Sheik throughout the entirety of the round at Long Beach, only for both of them to end up in the barrier coming out of the hairpin. And that retirement now means that Matthew Meilleur has used up both of his drop scores. He has consigned 2 poor scores or 2 0 scores as his drop scores, so he can't afford any mistakes at this point forwards can the SRG driver. Michael Polasek, meanwhile, for Yellow Flag Motorsport, well, that first win in some time has been back on the board, and the Yellow Flag Motorsport driver has quickly propelled himself up to 3rd. And if he can score big today, he could take the lead of the championship, but he's got to be wary of the fact that he already has 1 0 drop score, so he cannot afford too many more mistakes. Logan McKenzie for Pennzoil Super Touring sits in 4th for 515 points. Never count him out. He's normally strong in the endurance race rounds, he is in the sprint races, but perhaps he can pull some surprises today, much like he did at Palmer Motorsports Park only a couple of weeks ago. Fleet Smith leads the way overall in the Gammas, but we'll show you how that translates into Gamma points shortly. The B4D's driver 482 points, just 2 ahead of John Lauzon for Beaver and D's, who with that result last time out, a very spectacular result, and with that 3rd place overall on the streets of Long Beach, he has propelled himself up to be very close to the top 5, and he's now ahead of Chris McDonald for Crop Promotions. Had a bit of a difficult day in the office by comparison, and has just slipped a little bit further back into 7th. Then it's for ATU, sitting in 8th there for Beaver and D's on 445 points, 3 adrift of the Gamma driver, but in turn, the best part there of 20 points ahead of Francois Sheik, in fact 19 in total. The Kirby Enthusiasm Motorsport driver, or the Senior driver in 9th, and Cooper Akers completes your top 10 for Pennzoil Super Touring at the head of a very healthy Gamma pack, which does consist of Mike D'Almeida, Damon Mitchell, Matthew Shepka, Dan McFarlane, and Major Mod survive through to 15th place, but look how tight it is right now. From Cooper Akers on 421 points all the way down to Ian Bertolucci in 19th place. Well, that's a grand total there of only 104 points separating them all. And let's not forget John Daniels, Zachary Leopold, Zachary Bowman also in that mix there for 10th through to 19th. As a 20th place, meanwhile, that is Tyler Long, who rounds out our overall top 20 for T0 Race of Ascent, and he is, of course, the leading Delta driver at this time. But as we do look a little bit further down at that order, You can see that in 21st place is Zach Hidako for T0 Race and Descent. Has continued to chase Tyler Long, but the shoe is now on the other foot, whereas Hidako looked to be very much in control. Long Beach has removed that control from his hands, and Micah Hendricks for Crop Promotions a further point behind there, and the Alpha driver's definitely building up some steam. Third originally, Jason Lynn and Gareth McAllister complete your top 25 ahead of Evan Clavio, and we do have Corey Lobner, Mitchell Richmeyer, Kurt Smith, and Nicholas Shvedska completing your top 30. The Shvedska racing driver, the best part there of 27 points ahead of Carl Trost, and unfortunately for Shvedska, falling backwards to the back end of the top 30 after his big instant with the barrier last time out at Long Beach, but Trost there as well for T0 Racers then. We've only seen him join the season midway through, good to see him on the grid, and will definitely now starting to impress. Very much so. I'm back here once again today, and very impressive in practice, taking second to the Deltas at 14th place overall. Lewis Gilbert sits the best part there of 4 points behind him, but 10 ahead of Krista Ondera, and the Junkie of the Trunk Electronicas driver unfortunately not here today, but we look forward to seeing him back at Mid-Ohio in a week's time, with Jacob Simmons in 34th ahead of Austin Dunbar, and it's Mark Darnell, Eli Sussite, Christian Ost, Spencer Clark and Aaron Lark completing into the top 40. And outside the top 40, we do have 41st Tyler Langenberg ahead of Jeremy Barber, with Alexander Gonzalez Green sitting in 43rd, the lowest of our Gamma drivers from Mexico, ahead of Benjamin Andrews, Thomas Fancock, Jess Rakowski on 18 points, the last row drivers with points to the name in the Alpha Drivers Championship. And on 0 points, JB DeJoux, Jonathan Lantin, Jalen Kuo, Michael Bowman, Joshua Bibb, Angel Minnesota, and Nathan Hempley. But then let's come to the Gamma class standings. And here we can see with the points updated based on the Gamma finishing positions, plus also the Gamma's bonus points. Fleet Smith leads the way by only 10 points ahead of John Lauzon, but he has taken the lead over Chris McDonald, and John Lauzon has followed him through there. So right now, it looks like our top two very closely matched, and Beaver and D's driver, John Lauzon, has the momentum on his side after beating Smith on the road and strategically at Long Beach. Chris McDonald, to be well, his story was definitely one whereby he didn't have the pace to match Lauzon or Smith on Long Beach. However, he was ahead of the rest of the class, but he did lose third place to Major Monsavai on the open lap, and in the end, we found himself not able to stay with Monsavai, and therefore had to settle for fourth place at Long Beach. It was a good round for him, but he needs to try and find that edge of pace to go with his very strong consistency. Cooper Akers on 438 points for Pennzoil Super Touring. He definitely had a fighty day at Long Beach. He got stuck into the fight with Fleet Smith and everybody around him. It didn't matter if they pitted or not, and therefore he holds on to a happy fourth. Head of Mike Almeida by the best part of 24 points for Yellow Flag Motorsport. David Mitchell at 6th place there for Croc Promotions. We got to see him really get his elbows out last time out. Good to see the American driver continue to push onwards. And right now ahead of Dan McFarlane there, well, grand total gap of 11 points. The Sim Racing Grid drivers a little bit further behind, but ahead of Matthew Shepka for Sia. And then we do have Major Monsavai and John Daniels completing your top 10. The two T0 Racing Summit drivers still trying to move themselves into third gear. Then it's in the 11th place, Zachary Leopold, best the rest ahead of Zachary Bowman, with Ian Bertolucci, Nicholas Shvedska, and Alexander Gonzalez Green completing on Gamma standings. And as for the Deltas, here we can see in the third of our classes, it is as we look back up there and indeed get a bit ahead of ourselves to leap all the way down. Well, Ty Long leads the way for T0 Racer, set of 325 points. He's taken the lead for the first time this season, and he is definitely back to his early season 16 form. He was untouchable at Long Beach, but can he prove to be untouchable again today to open up a decent lead in the championship? Because that lead initially was with Zach Hodako, his teammate, but Hodako has slipped back after 9th place finish in Delta last time out, and therefore it was a brutal round for him, given his pace was absent in qualifying, and only as the race went on was he able to find some pace, but he was involved in the open lap incident that relegated to the very back of the field. Eshart G's third hour originally has moved into that third place. It was his best round of the season last time out, taking 2nd place in Delta, and he seemed to struggle in qualifying, but in the race he settled down very comfortably and grew in pace and fought his way all the way up to that 2nd place finishing class. Jason Lynn sits in 4th there, the Gator Racing driver having his best season so far on 240 points, just ahead of Gareth McAllister for Mountain Motorsport based on countback, and then we do see Evan Clavio at 6th there for Sim Racing Grid, ahead of Corey Lobner, and it's Kurt Smith, Mitchell Richmeyer, and Carl Trost to complete your top 10. And watch out for Mitchell Richmeyer and Carl Trost for T0 Racer Ascent and the Mountain Motorsport driver, because of the fact they both had rounds last time out where I think they wanted a lot more points, and they'll be definitely itching for those points today. Lewis Gilbert is best dressed on length for Gator Racing, ahead of Crystal Ondera, and then we do have Austin Dunbar, Mark Darnell, and Eli Sassak complete your top 15. Darnell for Gator Racing also enjoyed a very fighty race last time out on the streets of California, and we look forward to seeing how he can fight his way forward today. Christian Oss sits in 16th, ahead of Spencer Clark, with Aaron Lahr, Ty Langenberg, and Jeremy Barber completing your top 20. And outside the top 20 of the Deltas, not to be forgotten about, Benjamin Andrews, Thomas Fancott, and Jess Rakowski. And on 0 points, JB DeJoux in 24th, as is Jonathan Lantin, Jalen Kuo, Michael Bowman, Joshua Bibb, Angel Minnesota, and Nathan Hempley. As for your team championship standings, here we can see in the teams, overall, it's Beaver and D's who are continuing to build up quite the advantage at the moment. They continue to grow a gap. Can anybody slow them down? Or is it going to be the fight for second that takes priority at this point in the game? Because Croc Promotions right now only 12 points ahead of Yellow Flag Motorsports, but Croc Promotions having their best campaign to date are in a very close fight for that second place with YFM, and Pennzoil Super Touring are very quickly rising up through the ranks. And could we see them moving to second today? Because we know of the rivalry of Yellow Flag Motorsport and Pennzoil Super Touring, but Croc Promotions are really adding a new dimension to the battle. Sia sits in 5th meanwhile, 885 points, 15 ahead of T0 Racing Summit, and they're only a further point ahead of Eshart G. So we do have a very close fight for 5th, and don't forget about B4Ds or T0 Racing Ascent or Sim Racing Grid. So it's 10th all the way to 5th, fight each other hard for that final spot inside the top 5, and then you've got a bit of a sizable gap there to Yumata Motorsport, who are in a bit of a fight of their own for 11th versus Gator Racing, and it's only 5 points separated from Child Motorsport and Junk of the Trunk Electronicas for 13th. Meal Yet Score 80 points, breakfast for dinner, Penguin Mafia, and Waifu no Laifu. As your Delta Teams Championship, the last of our championship stands before we go qualifying, here we can see that T0 Race of the Ascent lead the way on 833 points ahead of UMAT and Motorsport, and the gap right now building quite nicely at T0 Race of the Ascent, living up to the name, which is ascending towards the heavens. Can they run away? Because now, given the fact that Tai Long has hit his stroke, and indeed hit his stride, I should say, with a master stroke last time out, and Hidako had a bit of a setback last time out, but he has been very strong so far this season. It does seem as though T0 Race of the Ascent have the perfect driver pairing in this Delta Team Championship. UMAT and Motorsport, meanwhile, when they're maintaining a very good rhythm and they need to keep up the performances to make sure they stay one step ahead of Gator Racing. For they bounce back very well to Gator Racing from their dismay at Barber Motorsports Park, and therefore could that bounce back be the sign of their campaign now stepping up a gear. SRG, they are 50 points ahead of Sim Racing Grid in the fight for fourth, with B4Ds and also Prom Tribe Motorsport and Junkie the Truck Electronicas wanted to be a part of that story, and T0 Racing summit at 18 points there complete the standings. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's a rundown of our standings, and now we're all ready to go for qualified here today on the streets of Chicago. But who exactly is going to put it on pole? Let's find out. And so here we go as time begins to tick away very quickly. 10 minutes, 2 flying laps plus an outlap, and therefore all the drivers have got to hurry. But remember, it's a closed qualifying session, so therefore it does mean for our drivers, they don't have to worry about tripping over each other's toes. They don't have to worry about being impeded or blocked on a lap. They've got the circuit isolated to themselves, but they've all got the same conditions out of the circuit. It's really about who can make the most of the conditions and get the job done. But we do see John Daniels make his way on through after the very inventive strategy last two out at Long Beach that definitely paid off. Well, here today, strategy is just going to be about one thing only. Qualify well. And if you don't qualify well, battle well as he makes his way through turns 4 into 5. But you can see that they're narrowing down a turn 3 through to 5 where the road goes, will essentially be about 6 wide to about 2-3 wide at best. And right now, John Daniels will definitely be cognizant of that when we go racing, although when he's on a clear track like this, he can use all the road. And how important will qualifying be? Well, as you may have seen in the cheat sheet, we talked about it, the overtaking difficulty here is one of the hardest of the season. And indeed, with 5 out of 5 overtaking difficulty, qualifying exceptionally well and getting to the front of your pack or to the front of the field is definitely going to prove important. But of course, remember, 2 sprint races and we have a top 50 inverted grid, so the idea would be, if you're a Delta driver, if the Delta field isn't quite up there inside that top 15, can you get on pole for race number 1 and then stay up there and win the race and then be on pole for race number 2? But of course, it never quite works out like that, and normally we do see a few Deltas squeeze their way inside that top 15 inversion, and it'll be interesting to see how exactly it does play out as we see Chris McDonald maze one around right now, just warming up the tyres of his Audi RS3 Gen 2 Evo car. Now we do have some new faces here today, although I say new, you'll remember them. They are drivers who are returning for the racing. Now, unfortunately, we won't be seeing Nick Bader. He did join for a little bit of the practice session. However, he has not opted to qualify or race today, so I think just dipping his toes back in, and hopefully we'll see Bader on the grid next time at Mid-Ohio, perhaps, going racing. But he returns after missing season 16. His first season was in season 8, and he's competed in 20 races and had a best finish of 5th place in Delta all the way back in round number 3 of season 8 at the Charlotte Roval. But meanwhile, who we do have here today, as the drivers go on to their first flying laps, in the Delta class, returning the man from Japan, and adding another Zach to the grid, it is Zach Saunders, the privateer, who returns after his debut in season 16, where he competed in 3 races and enjoyed plenty of battling, even though he didn't have the best of results. But to be fair, he definitely looked confident out there, and he's here today in his Audi RS3 Gen 2 machine. And we also do have returning to the grid once again. Well, in fact, I think those are the 2 who have made their returns. I don't think we've got any other new faces here today, so I do apologise for getting ahead of myself. I think there was 3 drivers here. It's only the 2, in fact, but very happy to see Saunders is competing in qualifying and the races, and hopefully we do see Nick Bader joining the grid for qualifying and the races in a future round. Because Nick, well, I can tell you one thing, I've seen him racing in several series over the best part of the last 5 years, and he's always a great character to have out there. He's not the fastest, but to be fair, he's one of the fairest when it comes to racing. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we better get ready to bring you an on-board lap for one of our drivers, and who better to give you an on-board lap than with our winner from our previous round of racing, and it is none other than Michael Polasek as he makes his way through turn number 1. So clearing turn 1, the yellow flag motorsport right now goes into turn number 2. Going through here very close to the barrier, as he exits out, now plenty of space to work with as he rolls his way all the way down towards turns 3, 4 and 5. Then up towards the right and kick first. He completely flat out as he makes his way on through. And well, don't worry about the time tell, that's on our end, not on yours, ladies and gentlemen. And now in towards turn number 4, onto the brakes as he oh, big hit to the wall. And for Michael Polasek, that lap's going to be aborted. And for Polasek, that's a toe to the pit lane there. So that's his qualified done and dusted I think. Well, we'll have to wait and see, but for Polasek, I think he's got one more lap available, but that will be essentially a lap after another outlap. So Polasek right now will not have an opportunity to really go for the ultimate lap because he needs normally 2 laps to get the tyres up to temperature, the outlap plus the first flying lap. So could this see Polasek qualify a lot further down the order? Well, we'll have to wait and find out. But meanwhile, as we do continue the feed, we're trying to get on board lap with one of our drivers. Well, we are going to make our way instead now onto the onboard with Major Monsfire to continue the story. And we'll so easily make a mistake. And we could see some big names here today fall to the back of the field or fall out of contention. And if so, well, this could be a round that really upsets the apple cart. But right now, it's Micah Hendricks, who's the current provincial pole sitter at a 29.630. That's very impressive for Micah. Well, we look forward to seeing what he can do, the 2-time champion. But meanwhile, we ride on board with Monsfire as he gets it absolutely right through turn 4 into 5. But as he gradually glances his way through the corner, and now makes his way up towards turn number 6. In the Hyundai Elantra, no less, for T0 Racing Summit. Brings the cover to the right-hand side. Notice in the corner, the road opens up very much so. And then suddenly narrows. He goes onto the brakes at the 2 board. Going all the way through that left-hander at the walls. They're only going to slow you down if you hit them, so you don't want to hit them at all. But now going in towards the rise over the bridge and down onto the brakes for turn number 8. And here you can see through the right-hander and then immediately get yourself set up for the next right-hander of turn number 9. Going all the way through and in towards left-hander and get ready for turns 10 and 11 very shortly. They're going all the way through. Keep a nice tight line, and now through the kink at 10, onto the brakes he'll go 411. Here we go, and well, as he comes all the way down the gearbox to first gear, so tight through that corner, the tightest section of the circuit, and now back over the rise and down towards turn number 12. It's a 90-degree right hander to complete the lap and do it all over again. But of course, on Monsfire, this will be his last flying lap, as it will be for so many drivers, and therefore I have to wait and see what he can do. He was 20th. It's a 30.638, and that's going to move him up to 14th place, at least for now. But will he stay there? That's 8th place in Gamma at the moment, as meanwhile Hendricks has set the benchmark at 29.504. So he's going even quicker as Hendricks. He's done his final lap, so he can't go any quicker than that. But meanwhile, what about Michael Polasek? He's on his only lap then. He invalidated the first one with a hit to the barrier, which saw him total to the pit lane. So therefore, he's had to use that first one as a recurrent out lap, and therefore he's only allowed to get this one lap together right now. We've also got no lap time for Logan McKinsey at the moment as he makes his way out of turn number 6 and up the hill towards 7, and as he does so, going down over the bridge. And remember, this circuit primarily situated within Grant Park, one of the major parks in Chicago. Indeed, a lovely scenic view, absolutely disrupted by the roar of racing machinery, although to be fair, I don't think anybody minds other than the birds and the locals. As he makes his way all around through the corners right now, coming up towards turn number 11. Will definitely driving on the limit as McKinsey, but of course, if he makes one brush with the barrier and it's considered to be a contact, it will invalidate the lap entirely. And that's the thing with street circuits and qualifying on iRacing. You touch those barriers, typically will invalidate lap straight away, even if it's just a glance, and therefore you cannot afford any mistakes. You've got to run it close to the walls to find the optimum lap time. And what does McKinsey find at the end of his second lap? And that's good enough for only 18th. Meanwhile, Polasek, we only gets one lap out of it, and it is good enough for 6th there. So, some late improvements, and also some big shocks. The biggest one, Logan McKinsey, 18th. One of the big contenders in the overall Alpha Championship. Well, he will be starting 18th. And, well, in terms of other surprises, Zach Saunders returns to the racing, and the 117 driver in the Delta class will 7th place overall. That's a monster lap. And Zach Hidako, it's the Zachs that lead the way in Delta, but Hidako will be 15th, and that's Carl Trost in 21st. Meanwhile, in Gamma, Fleet Smith is going to be joining this man, Micah Hendricks, on the front row. The Croc Promotions drive will have the company of the number 13 Audi, and Fleet Smith taking pole position today, much like he did, of course, versus John Lauzon last time out. Tried to go for pole, but he didn't beat Lauzon last time out, but he beats Lauzon here today, so he's going to be absolutely ecstatic about that. And with John Lauzon down in 9th place overall, 3rd in class for comparison, and Dan McFarlane with very impressive 2nd place in Gamma, 5th overall. Could this be the day we see Dan McFarlane have a happy day in the office when it comes to the sprint race as well? For that and more, we'll find out very soon. And well, in terms of other shocks or other reasonable performances out there, well, Carl Trost out qualifying Tyler Long for 3rd place in Delta, 21st overall as the circuit falls silent, and we are just waiting the 2 minutes out now. And I do believe that is because we're just giving the opportunity, should Nick Bader decide to qualify, although I do believe they're not going to be getting this Hyundai Elantra out today in this qualifying session, but we are giving him the opportunity to run the clock down. But what a qualifying session this has been. And well, qualifying is just one part of the story, but it's a very important part of the story at a street circuit. Indeed, so far this season, we have had a lot of street circuits in the US of A. It has been a street racing season, but the circuits will really open up in the second half of the season. Mid-Ohio will really be the start of it. And of course, what we will see as well is the fact that we do go to the Oceania region for our final 3 rounds. We will be going back to the FEMA street circuits for 2 of those rounds. We'll be at Adelaide, but in round number 10, that will definitely be a street circuit in the form of street circuit. However, our season finale at Mount Panorama, well, for those uninitiated, Mount Panorama is officially designated as a street circuit, although you would think perhaps it shouldn't be, but we'll explain a bit more in the season finale why it is actually a street circuit rather than a road racing circuit. And well, more on that later on in the season, but right now we'll give you that little bit of an appetizer with regards to a bit of trivia. And in the meantime, well, the circuit definitely falls silent here. No changes, and well, nobody else out of the circuit at the moment, so we are just waiting for the clock to come down. But other thoughts with regards to qualifying, well, for it our originally, again, much like at Long Beach, 6th place in Delta, 24th overall, but again, never count that man out in his Audi. He is very quick when he gets his mind to it, but he does have these moments where last season he had all the magic in qualifying, particularly some incredible laps such as Okayama, but when we did go racing, things just didn't quite click together. It seems as though this season so far, he's gone the other way in terms of how he spec'd up the season, which is qualifying's a bit of a mixed bag, but in the race he's got a lot of pace. If he can get those qualifying points together, he could be on for some Delta wins, and we'd love to see him do that. Mark Darnell as well, we definitely had a race last time out that was full of fight. He's going to have to do more of that today. 27th out of our 29 drivers who've made the way here, but we're expecting only 28 starters with the absence of Bader's car from the grid. Well, definitely a bit of a surprise there for Darnell, and Jeremy Barber not too far behind. A very tight spread in this field, and particularly you look at that top 10, a grand total of just over 8 tenths separated. Hendrick, Smith, Swirydowicz, Meilleur, McFarlane, Polasek, Saunders, Tew, Lauzon and Shvedska. You couldn't ask for it to be closer. But, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we couldn't be closer to going green flag racing because qualifying is complete. It's time to make our way now to the grid for the first of our 2 races, and this is how they'll all line up. And as we can see, for our sprints on the streets of Chicago in round number 6 of the AlphaTauri Challenge Season 17, in race number 1 of the day, it's Micah Hendricks who returns to the Micah Hendricks we know and love in terms of his pace, and the Croc Promotions driver takes pole position, his first pole position for a long time in his career, and he's on pole by a grand total of 2 tenths of B4D's Fleet Smith, who will be your Gamma pole sitter and striking back versus John Lauzon qualified here today. However, on row at number 2, just behind them, it will be Beaver and D's Wojciech Swirydowicz. This is a golden opportunity for Swirydowicz to right the wrongs of Long Beach in terms of missing out on the win, but he'll need to chase down Hendricks. He wants to do that, who was 3 tenths faster than him by comparison in qualifying. Joining Swirydowicz from row number 2 is SRG's Matthew Meilleur, and we can see the Canadian driver there, only a tenth of Swirydowicz, but in turn, a grand total of 1.5 tenths faster almost than Dan McFarlane. Starts second of the Gammas at 5th overall, a season best qualifying points there of the 23 driver, and the Sim Racing Grid driver will be happy with that, but one driver who won't be happy with how qualifying has gone is your defending champion of Michael Polasek, the 5-time champion looking to equal the score to Logan McKenzie's 6th this season, and Polasek right now at least has not started off right here today with a 6th place in qualifying for Yellow Flag Motorsport. However, he'll fight his way forward, as will Zach Saunders if he can. The Japanese driver making his return to the grid, his debut for this season, but of course made his actual official career debut in season 16. The 117 driver that absolutely dominated Delta qualifying, and he'll be very happy to be inside that top 10. The priority will be joined on the 4th row by Ray Tew for Beaver and D's, and then we will see behind the 96 driver, John Lauzon for Beaver and D's, his teammate. There for the Canadian, it'll be his fellow countryman of Nicholas Shvedska for Shvedska Racing, starting 10th place, and we're happy qualified points from Shvedska, one of his best. Lauzon, meanwhile, be a little bit worried about the fact where he's qualified, but how far can he go from where he starts? Matthew Shepka starts 11th for Kirby Enthusiasm Autosport in the company of his teammate from SIA, or Francois Schink. And then we do have a row 7, Damon Mitchell for Croc Promotions and Cooper Akers for Pennzoil Super Touring. They were separated by only 35 thousandths, and then the theme of thousands continues as at Hudarko, second of your Delta drivers, starting 15th there for T0 Racing Ascent, ahead of Major Mon Survive for T0 Racing Summit. John Daniel starts 17th for T0 Racing Summit, just behind, and it's Logan McKenzie who will be there in 18th place for Pennzoil Super Touring. Then 19th, Zachary Bowman for Yellow Flag Motorsport, ahead of Chris McDonald for Croc Promotions, and outside the top 20 of Bowman not having the best of qualifying performances. That's a bit of a shock to the system there. Carl Tro starts in 3rd of your Deltas, and we'll be very happy to be 3rd of Deltas until he realises the gap to Hurdarko and Saunders. But still, he's got to make sure he fights off Tyler Long, the man on the ascendancy for T0 Racing Centre, his teammate, but can he score one back versus Long today? Corey Lobner starts 23rd, ahead of Fouad Al-Ridji for SRG, and then we do have Jason Lynn for Gator Racing on row 13, in the company of Gareth McAllister for UMAT Motorsport. Mark Darnell starts 27th for Gator Racing, ahead of UMAT Motorsport's Jeremy Barber, and then started 29th, last but by no means least, should he join the grid, although I do believe he's not joining the grid, Nick Bader there. So therefore we have 28 starters, ladies and gentlemen, and with it all set and in position, it is time for us to go green flag racing. So we look down to the front of the field, the rev starts to rise, and private lights start to go on, and for the first time on the streets of Chicago this season, it is going to be Lights out, away we go for race number 1 of the day as they roar the way away down towards turn number 1. It's a good start there for Michael Hendricks, but meanwhile, looking alongside, Fleet Swift goes on the attack immediately. Smith's going to try and take the leader into the opening corner. Onto the brakes they all go. 2 wide there, further back, they're down the far lane. Very sideways from Wojciech Swirydowicz. And as they come up towards turn number 2, Swirydowicz is going to get absolutely absorbed into the pack here. As meanwhile, it's going to be Hendricks getting back ahead of Smith, and all the drivers make their way through turn 2. And as they do, the City of Machines, the Shepard and Sheik give each other plenty of space. They don't want to fight too hard this early on. They want to try and keep it as clean as humanly possible. But down they come, flashing the headlights there from one drive further back. All your Deltas safely on through. All the field heads in towards turns 3. Oh, goodness me! What on earth's happened there? That's Fleet Swift being caught up. Drives over second race of action. More cars going on around. And all the 12 into the air there as well. Well, that's not the way you want to keep it on the ground. And as they make the way through turns 4 and 5, massive drama there coming in towards turn number 3. I suspect something's happened to Smith, and it's triggered off a domino effect essentially, but we will get a replay of that when we can. But big drama right at the start of the race, but meanwhile, those who avoided the drama, well, they're the ones who are gainers. It's Hendricks, Meilleur and Polasek now as they go on to the second half of the opening lap, and coming over the hill and down in towards turn number 7. Well, everyone starts to calm down immediately. Zach Saunders still Delta leader, but he's lost 1 place overall, although to be fair, that's going to be changed by comparison with how he's feeding with the Delta position. Everyone on his way up through turns 8 into 9 right now. There'll be no opportunity here for anyone to overtake. Everyone will simply back off, or will they? As it's going to be 2 wide here. This is going to be McDonald to the outside versus Monsavite on the inside. Remember, Monsavite will be on the outside now for the next 2 corners, but McDonald being elbowed out there. Well, Chris McDonald being told by Major Monsavite, no, you can stay behind, thank you very much. You've got no place alongside me. I mean, I'll Tyler Long chasing after Zachary Bowman. He's got ahead of Carl Trost. Trost, his teammate, just behind. And on the brakes, they all go. And Bowman then looking for the move on John Daniels, but that's not going to work out as they come through turn number 12. So after 1 lap of racing, it's Hendricks ahead of Meilleur, followed by Polasek. Then it's a 1-second gap to your leading Gamma of Dan McFarlane. But he's being passed there by Wojciech Swirydowicz, and makes the move on the inside to outside through turns 1 and 2. And McFarlane says, no, how about this for size? But he brushes Mario! Oh! And that's going to be contact between teammates. John Lawson in contact with his BRD's teammate of Swirydowicz. And well, I think there in the end, Lawson trying to take the cheeky 3 wide coming out the corner, and Swirydowicz coming off the bend, and before he knew it, Lawson was there. So I think it'll be a racing instant, but unfortunately, understandably, trying to seize that opportunity, Lawson's end up in dismay rather than joy. And indeed, a despairing day right now for Lawson, and Swirydowicz, well, it's the one thing not to do, of course, is have an instant that takes a teammate out of the race, albeit to be fair, I don't think you realise it at the time until the race is complete, but I'm sure the team will have a bit of analysis of that one and understand what exactly he could have done better, but I don't think there's much they could have done in that situation. Meanwhile, we talk about Damon Mitchell. He's had a good start to his race, holding on to 9th place overall, still second in Gamma at the moment, and he's got Cooper Akers a little bit further back, and Akers feeding some pressure. Meanwhile, that's 3 wide coming down the hill, and well, 1 drive backing off there. That's Tyler Long going around the outside of, I believe, Major Monsavite. So Monsavite right now struggling. I wonder, surely he's not picked up a slowdown. I don't think he can pick up a slowdown around here. If so, he's had a very inventive way to do so, but Monsavite is slowing down. There's damage to that car. He's got front suspension damage. It's the front right. No, it's the rear right. That's completely dropped. So he's had a big impact with the wall somewhere, and unfortunately that car is not going fast. He's just taking it easy to get to the pit lane for its fast repair. Meanwhile, Tyler Long with the inside of John Daniels. Another place being gained here by the man who took victory in Delta last time out at Long Beach. And right now he is flying his Long. I wouldn't be surprised here if he gets to the back of Zach Hidalgo before this race is over. And to put you in perspective, there's Hidalgo coming through the opening corner, and Long's just about making his way into the braking zone. So he has really slashed that gap down. And the change for qualifying this season to go from 3 flying laps to 2 in the closed qualifying session, I think that's what's throwing a lot of drivers off, is the fact they sometimes need more laps to get used to it. But right now it does seem as though those who are able to turn the wick on immediately in qualifying, they really are benefiting from the changed qualifying format. But it's good to see, because it does serve to shake up the field just a little bit more when you take a little bit of the precious time of qualifying away. But meanwhile, Corey Lobner trying to take a precious position away from Carl Trost here as they come through turn 4 into 5. Will he be able to do it? Oh, he hits the wall. No, he won't be able to do it with that. And well, the CFR privateer right now with an impact like that, I wouldn't be surprised if the suspension's going to be out of alignment and suddenly to go straight, he's going to point the steering wheel at an angle. That's not what you want to have happen. And suddenly that introduces excess wear in the tyres as well, because essentially you're grinding the compound along the ground a bit more with the suspension wheel dropped out of position. But as he rolls his way up the hill and over the bridge, well, right now Corey Lobner definitely keeping his head down, but meanwhile Gareth McAllister taking a cheeky peek up the inside of Al Ridgely. That's not going to work here. He has to back off. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we back off the live racing for a brief moment, and we get a replay of the big incident right at the start of the race. Here we go for a bit of a trip back in time to try and understand what exactly went wrong for Fleet Smith and so many other drivers. So this was Fleet Smith battling hard initially with Hendricks. Oh, there was contact between the 2 of them, and Hendricks survived it as a result of the contact, and then Fleet Smith rolled it back with his brakes on, and that led to all the madness unfolding. Can we get a bit of an earlier look at that battle? I think we can. And Fleet Smith was the one who was catapulted up into the air, the car going straight to the side of him. Couldn't quite see who that was, but we go back towards the start of the race, ladies and gentlemen. And this was the big battle right at the start. So coming down towards turn 1, and of course Smith on the inside versus Hendricks. Of course, there's a bit of a slide wide there for Swirydowicz. We're not quite sure if he was helped on that adventure or not. We didn't quite see there was contact, but I suspect it might be cold tyres. But then coming out of turn 2, so Fleet Smith got the better run out the corner here, went towards 3, and Hendricks came across to essentially cover him off. And as he did so, that is what triggered everything that unfolded. Trying to squeeze him off, and unfortunately the two came into contact, and Hendricks able to get it back together. Everyone slowed down behind, but Smith's car rolling back across the road, and well, Schwedska getting caught up there, so did Matthew Shepka, and I think Shepka being tapped there by Francois Schink. This is what it looked like on board from Schwedska's perspective as he came off free. He's going to see all the smoke going up here, so he knows madness is unfolding. The yellow flags will start to wave. He pulls to the right, but unfortunately somebody behind him doesn't get the memo, hits him on the back, and the Schwedska racing driver goes round. This is what it looked like from Matthew Shepka's perspective as he made his way through. There's Schwedska to the left, here comes Shepka, and as he did, so Shepka in the end making contact with Schwedska. I don't think there was contact from the perspective of Francois Schink. Let's see if we can get Schink's perspective here, and I think we can. And this was the Kirby Enthusiast Motorsport driver behind his teammate. Well onto the brakes, both did. And no, so he didn't make contact there with Schwedska and what was Shepka making contact together. So that explains what happened to them. And then unfortunately, this is what it looked like from Jason Lynn's on-board perspective, albeit looking down over the car. I think he's the one who made contact with Fleet Smith after Smith had already hit the barrier. Oh, goodness me for Jason Lynn. He wanted to go around the outside thinking it was safe, but unfortunately he found a face full of Smith there, and that did not help out. But then we had this big moment on lap number 2 for John Lauzon, and this was Lauzon battling at the time with what was down the far lane, and also Wojciech Swirydowicz. Swirydowicz hit the wall, ricocheted off it, and John Lauzon in the wrong place at the right time to be turned around there. And for Lauzon, the race went completely backwards. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we make our way back to your live racing action. And goodness me, what an active opening few laps we've had. As we do coming back, still more to come, no doubt about it. And well, we've got the best part of 18 minutes plus the final lap of this race to go. But as we do carry on the journey, well, right now, have there been any changes since we last looked whilst we're in the replay format? And the answer is no, not quite. Although we have got some battles building, including Zachary Bowman trying to keep Tyler Long at bay. And Long right now, definitely looking all the way around the houses here for that potential move. And the yellow flag motorsport trying to go very defensive. But I think this will calm down for a little bit, at least at the moment. But then again, we normally say it's the calm before the proverbial storm when it comes to racing the AlphaTauri Challenge. You can never quite predict what happens until it does happen. But that's why the ATC's been doing so well for 5+ years, and long may it continue. But as we do see what is Bowman right now feeding that pressure from Long. Well, meanwhile, Cooper Akers and Damon Mitchell close together. There you can see them, the Pennzoil Super Touring Honda trying to keep what will be the wonderful Audi of Mitchell's car behind. And right now, it does seem as though the Gator Racing car on the attack here as they make their way up towards turn number 2. But can he find a way in at the end? The answer seems to be no at the moment. And this is where it becomes a game of full of leading. You see them all grazing the outside barrier. A small graze like that, that's not too bad. You may shave some paint, you may lose a mile per hour, but it means nothing. Meanwhile, a big knock definitely damages the car, and with it can put you out the race. But here we go. Mitchell looking around the outside, goes to the switch back. That's not going to work out as he rolls above the corner, goes very deep out turn number 5. And the Croc Promotions driver right now, I said Gator Racer months ago, apologies for the confusion. Well, with that battle, suddenly here comes Logan McKenzie, who's looking for the move. So McKenzie sees what's going on and says, well, catch up, thank you very much. Remember, McKenzie started 18th in this race. He's now going to go around the outside, sweeps the move around the outside of Dane Mitchell and moves up to 9th. So he's halved his deficit to the front of the field, but now he's got a few more places to go. And well, every time you gain a place in such a situation, the next one becomes that harder to take, because in theory, each drive you overtake, the pace of the driver next up is going to be just that little bit quicker. Otherwise, they wouldn't be ahead, surely. But as they make their way through the sweeper of turn number 9 in towards 10. Right now, Logan McKenzie just taking it one place at a time, and I think David Mitchell wanted to make a move there, but I think that was also a little bit of concern of Zach Hidako closed up behind. I think he's worried about the Delta driver taking that position. Now, for the uninitiated in the AlphaTauri Challenge, of course, we do have our 3 classes of the Alphas who are blue in the time and tower. You've got your Gammas who are pink-purple in the time and tower, and your Deltas who are yellow. You can also see it with the sun strips on the cars, and also the number cards on the doors. Well, why they all fight each other? Why not just prioritise fighting with a class rival instead? Well, it's because you gain your points first and foremost on your overall finishing position, and then in the Gamma and the Delta classes you gain bonus points for being on the podium of the class. And in a sprint race it is 4 for first, 2 for second, 1 for third, and we double it of course the endurance races, so it all adds up to a grand total of 8 points for first and 4 points for second and 3 points for 2 points for third, especially if you take both those results in the sprint races or the single result in the endurance race rounds. So it's all consistent here. It's not as though the sprint races are worth more than the feature rounds, or the endurance race rounds we should say. But meanwhile, as we do come to Gareth McAllister. Well, he's on a mission right now, and he's feeling very pointsy today, as Tim Graham would say, for the BTCC, if you're a big fan of that. And with the Matt Motorsport driver here, keeping it nice and close versus Al Ridgely, with Carl Trost in front. And after a good start for Trost, what seems to have happened is I wonder if he's cooked his tyres a little bit early on in this one, because Trost has started to struggle a little bit on pace with still half the race to go. In terms of weather conditions here today, if we bring those up on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see the Fahrenheit is definitely quite high, 101 in terms of track temperature at the moment. We're not extreme temperatures, but this is a warm track, and the Elantras will be feeding the bite when it comes to those front tyre temperatures as this race goes on. So that might be what Trost is struggling with at the moment, because that pace has definitely taken a little bit of a back step as they roll the way up towards the end of this lap. But Gareth McAllister right now just trying to play the game and follow the leader. As a bit further down the order, I do believe we do have, or further up the road we should really say, it's Micah Hendricks still leading, although catching up to Nikola Shredska, although understandably Shredska will be going a lap down, so the blue flags will start to wave and he'll be required to cede track position to Hendricks when he gets a bit closer. Hendricks trying to keep Meilleur and Polasek behind, and right now Meilleur did a good job. Michael Polasek, who had that very difficult qualifying performance, we took 6th for the end, right now in position for 3rd, but he's got some work to do here if he wants to try and take that. But looking a bit further down the road, Zach Hidalgo finding the pressure of Chris McDonald, and well, here goes McDonald looking around the outside. Can he get it done? It's turn 4, he's going to try it, and indeed he goes for it. But to be fair, Hidalgo does not give up. It's 2-1 coming up the corner. Right now your Delta leader wants to fight this a little bit more. That Honda, of course, much better on corner exit initially, but this is where the Audi now goes to town. Once it goes onto a straight, getting the throttle down and absolutely buried it to the floor, where he has to stab with the brakes. Hidalgo trying to go round the outside here, but it will be Chris McDonald who takes that 11th place for now. As we look back for the rear is Audi, the Gen 2 car for Croc Promotions, and the 85 driver here keeping it parked nicely. And well, for McDonald, that's another place gained. Plenty more to come, however, and we've still got just over half the race remaining. But what an opening half it has been here on the streets of Chicago, and we've still got plenty more excitement to come before this one is said and done. And look at Bowman, who's all on the back of this now like a bad rash. And he says, well, if McDonald can play, I can play too. And Tyler Long and John Daniels being brought onto the back of this very gradually. So great fighting between was McDonald and Hidalgo for 11th. But I think that's only going to open up more fighting as they get towards the finish line. But as we come back up to Cooper Acres, we haven't really talked about so far today. And, well, he definitely made his car as wide as possible on the streets of California. But here to down the streets of Illinois, can he do that as well? Because Logan McKinsey is right behind. Although I suspect he won't want to defend too hard versus McKinsey as his teammate. And I think he'll suspect that McKinsey's the faster of the two of them, despite the qualifying points saying the other way. I think it was McKinsey just didn't quite get it together in qualifying, and right now, well, McKinsey and Akers need to figure this one out, because they do have David Mitchell for close company, and Zach Hidalgo under a bit more pressure here. Here comes Bowman, so it's the battle of the two Zachs, but right now the Gamma Zach trying to overtake the Delta Zach. On the left of the picture is Hidalgo, on the right it's going to be Bowman. They go two-way for a turn before, and Hidalgo literally having deja vu for the previous lap, but it's a battle of two Hondas here as they come out the corner. Right now Hidalgo refused to give in. Perhaps there's a bit of a Zach rivalry going on here, and to be fair, we're all for it. We do see the battle of the Zacks, and as he makes his way up towards the braking zone here for turn number 6, we'll run his way through the left-hander, and right now keeping it together, but he's still got more work to do here as he's literally been run bumper to bumper. Here they come into the braking zone. It's going to be a look up the inside from Bowman, but he's not going to be able to get it done there. It's way too tight to the apex. He's got to brake nice and early, and that's going to stay as is. They come through. But right now, Zach Hidalgo really trying to plug the gap, and the T0 Racing driver, of course, does his teammate Tyler Long, not too far back in the Delta class, and Carl Trost here trying to make it a podium for T0 Racing Ascent in the Delta category. Hidalgo, Long and Trost, it would be that order that they would absolutely lock out the podium, but right now Trost, Al Ridgely and McAllister still together, but the UMAT Motorsport drivers having a really good run of this, no doubt. But meanwhile, change of position in the fight for 4th, or is it? And it is, I believe, Wojciech Swirydowicz getting ahead of Dan McFarlane there, taking that position for Beaver and D's. And remember, of course, he was caught up in that big brush incident with John Lauzon, which saw Lauzon taken to the pit lane. Meanwhile, for Swirydowicz, he's been able to keep the car going, and he gets that place back in the end off of McFarlane. And well, Ray to you, watches on behind as we ride aboard here with your 96 Honda. Now, the Beaver and D's driver at this point, what can he really do to get more involved? Well, I think he's just got to play a bit of a patience game here. That's the thing as well. It's like playing chess on the streets in the fact that when you go for a move, well, of course, every corner around here and a battle into it is going to cost a lot more time. When you're the third player in the game in front of you, sometimes you've got to be there to capitalise. We've seen drivers try earlier on, and that's not the way to capitalise, by brushing the barrier coming out of turn number 6. But to be fair, that's also one of the hard parts as well. Because remember, right now, where we're sat in the car, we're actually sat in the camera that's slightly off of where the driver sits, but also we're at a slightly elevated camera. We get a much bigger field of view. Meanwhile, for the driver, typically you don't have much vision, and when you're this close, what you're actually looking at is the car in front's braking zones, typically to know when you need to brake, because the concertina effect means you can't use your normal braking zone. You have to brake just that little bit earlier, otherwise you'd hit the car in front on the rear. But the difficulty is the fact you are obscured. So when you come through the corners, he's got a face of an Elantra, and then he suddenly sees the barrier on his left-hand side. Even if he's on triples or single monitors, some drives don't have 3 monitors, some just have a single monitor. Well, that's how difficult it is right now. On a road circuit, it's hard enough, but on a street circuit, it gets even harder as they make the way through that left-hander again. But as they do so, well, right now, we're going on to lap number 11. We do apologise there for the overlay just refreshing itself, but that's on our end, not yours, ladies and gentlemen. We're keeping an eye on it. Should it continue, we have a backup plan available. And Matthew Meilleur right now keeping Michael Polasek behind as they roll their way on towards lap number 11. And still plenty more to come, but Meilleur feeling the pressure from Polasek as Hendricks holding on for now. And goodness me, for Micah Hendricks, how long has it last been since we've seen him take a win? Well, the answer to that question, we will find out in a little bit of time. But right now, he is definitely looking to be on for what would be a win, and well, something tells me that Hendricks will be absolutely ecstatic should he make it happen. And we'll just find out that information when he last won, and his last win was in season 16 at round number 8, and that was the Alton Park circuit overall. And we has had a grand total of 37 over-ins has Micah Hendricks in his career, and this will be win number 38. Should he be able to pull it off? And can he go for the double here today? Well, that will have to wait and see. But right now, at least, everything seems to be coming up the way of the Crop Promotions driver. Looking a bit further back, Logan McKenzie trying to look around the outside of Damon Mitchell for 9th place overall, and Mitchell back ahead for the moment. In fact, they have had a change of position. And oh, that's a big hit to the wall there for Damon Mitchell. That's not good news, and that's the front left suspension gone. And like that, Damon Mitchell, one small mistake, but it only takes one small mistake to pay the biggest price, and that's going to see him have to come into the pit lane. Meanwhile, McFarlane versus TU will suddenly have to Swirydowicz as fast. McFarlane now TU's thinking about making a move as well for 5th place overall and trying to upset the apple cart of the top 5 for the Gamma leader. But right now, Dan McFarlane absolutely keeping it together, and well, this has gradually come to him, to be fair, after Fleet Smith's initial incident with Hendricks, plus also Lowes on the Swirydowicz coming together for McFarlane. If I was him right now, I'd probably be thinking to myself, well, I'll fight it a little bit, but if it starts to get nerve-wracking, I will let it go, because that Gamma win would be very important here today in the first race. Remember, of course, there's another race to come, but for McFarlane, given the limited number of Gamma drives inside the top 15, there's only 5 of them at the moment, he's on course for absolutely huge points by comparison with his peers, particularly John Lowes on Fleet Smith. Although, to be fair to Fleet Smith, we can expect him to come roaring through the field in the second race, given his qualifying pace, but we will have to wait and see whether he's as adept to overtaking as he is at one lap magic on the streets of Chicago. McFarlane coming on down here right now, and he was staying just very much on his rear bumper as we look back for the rear of the Sim Racing Grid 23. And well, weaving the way between the walls. And right now for TU, I think the Honda driver knows that he's got the advantage. He knows he's got the pace to attack. He knows he's got the better brakes in that Honda, but he's got to find the right place to execute this move and get it done in a single corner. What he doesn't want to do is have to fight through multiple corners. Not because he's worried about Francois Schink behind. Schink in the senior machine is 6 seconds back. But the thing is, he wants to get this move done, so that way he can just then simply storm away and perhaps go after Swirydowicz, who thinks he's got the pace to chase down the Polish driver. But here they go on to lap number 13 of their race. 7 minutes still to go. And right now, no sort of move from TU. Instead, just constantly being that threat as they come out to 1 and up towards 2. And well, Hendricks, meanwhile, still 1.5 seconds clear of Meilleur. And Meilleur right now still has Polasek for close company. But in terms of when Dan McFarlane took a previous win, we're just going to find out the information in the meantime, because it has been a bit of time since we take a look at his little record. And well, the last time that he took a Gamma win, Dan McFarlane, was in round number 6 of season 16, and that was at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Parks. Therefore, for Dan McFarlane right now, it would definitely be a win that's been some time away. And well, with a 5th place overall, it wouldn't be his best result. He has had 3 overall wins in his career, the last of those coming in round number 5 of season 13 at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car course. So we'll be going there in a week's time. Could he potentially make it his 4th overall win? Well, that would definitely be a tough task and a tough ask. But to be fair, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And that's exactly what Dan McFarlane is all about. But as he comes on through and around the corners right now, well, McFarlane definitely still holding his own here and not wilted to the pressure. But speaking of pressure, we have had Damon Mitchell come into the pits and the car has been repaired. He has used that fast repair for the damaged suspension, which is good to hear. So therefore Mitchell back out there. Here's the proof of the pudding. You can see him on camera, although understandably he has lost several places as a result of that pit stop. He's down to 19th place. The Croc Promotions driver is going to have to go chase after Mark Darnell, then Gareth McAllister, Ferdal Ridgey, and then if he can catch up to Carl Trost, he might have a chance of being inside that inverted top 15. As Major Monsavai has also come into the pit lane, we believe it's for some work on the car. It is being looked at the moment for Monsavai, but I think he's... In fact, I think the car's being looked at by the team. They're actually wheeling it back into the stall at the moment. So therefore, I think Monsavai might be out of this race with 5 minutes to go. So therefore, things are calming down to a degree. But as they do calm them down, we take a quick look back at some of the big boats. Or do we? No, we don't, as that's going to be... What is Mark Darnell being passed by David Mitchell? Lets the place go to Mitchell and decides there's no point fighting that. He'd rather just simply let the place go. And, well, I think Darnell here playing the game, which is Delta positions over overall positions. And I think it's worth the game at this point with Zach Saunders chasing him. Remember, Saunders was your pole sitter in his car for what was the Delta class, and taking that 7th place overall as well. Was an absolutely incredible pole lap in the category, but right now the 117 driver, he's still got a bit of work to do if he wants to bring this together right now as he makes his way on down the back stretch. And as he does so, he's going to chase down Darnell. He's got to try and close a 1.4 second gap up. That's not going to be easy with the limited amount of mileage they still have in the race. But looking back up to Meilleur versus Polasek, this battle has been going on for some time, and Polasek's pretty much been glued to the back of Meilleur since around lap number 4. So he spent the best part of the last 15 minutes like this, and Polasek's still going on the attack as we ride on board with the number 1 driver, and right now still trying to find a way in. And if he does take this result, it would move him ahead theoretically in the championship going into the second race of the day as they go into lap 15. But you can see there as well, Hendricks's lead, it was 1.4 seconds. It's actually been brought back down to 1.1. Now, to be fair, Hendricks might be managing this race a little bit, just protecting the car, protecting the tyres slightly. They will put a fresh pair on for the next race of the day, so it's not as though he's got used to the tyres in both races, but the flip side of the coin being as well, those tyres will definitely be hot, they'll definitely have been used, they'll be past their prime, and therefore I think he'll just be trying to make sure he doesn't push them too hard, so that way he doesn't end up towards a barrier. But meanwhile, Meilleur has no such luxury, given that Polasek right now is all over the back of him still, but this gap is not coming down in his favour, it's staying at 3/10 at the moment. Further back, Ray Tew over the back of Dan McFarlane. In fact, he could get any closer at that point. He'd be inside the trunk of the car in front if he was to go for that. And right now, Dan McFarlane definitely feeling the pressure here, but he's doing very well to hold it off versus Tew. And remember, last season, Tew was your Gamma champion, the inaugural Gamma champion of the AlphaTauri Challenge, with the class introduced for season 16 as part of the 5-year anniversary season. And these two spent plenty of time battling each other in the Gamma class last season. So it's going to feel as though its rivalries of old being reignited. But of course, with the added wrapper, which is that one of them down Alpha in the form of Tew, and the other is still a Gamma. And with McFarlane right now, if he's able to hold on to this, he's going to be feeling very much Sigma by the end of it, if the modern parlance goes that way. But right his way out of the corner. Right now, understandably, Tew just wants to keep goading him into a mistake if he can. Ferdal Ridgey, he's on the back of Carl Trost here. No real way in at the moment. He's still waiting for that overtaking opportunity. But Trost definitely feeling the pressure. As meanwhile, oh, hold up, that's Zach Saunders. Saunders is into the barrier at turn number 6. And for Saunders, that's a Tota pit lane. And his race comes to an abrupt halt, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we get a quick replay of that. Plus also what happened to Gareth McAllister only moments ago. And here we go. And this was McAllister at the time, well ahead of David Mitchell in 17th place. Went into turn 6. Ow! And went straight into the barrier there. And the U-Mountain Motorsport driver coming to an abrupt halt. And it's the exact same mistake as Zach Saunders. Saunders was going along the road. And I think right now there's no oil down there as far as I'm aware. But definitely a slippery surface coming in towards turn number 6. Onto the brakes. And that's brake failure there for Zach Saunders. That is the brakes going on that Audi. Because he tried to get the car to stop and it just kept going. That's a scary moment for Saunders, and hopefully he's all okay for both tries, but particularly for Saunders because he came in there at much higher speed, and well, I'm sure they'll be able to get that car repaired if they can. But ladies and gentlemen, it's back to your live racing. As we do come on back, we've only got 1 minute 20 to go, so no more replays ready down till the very end, and as the drivers make the way on around, well, no change in that replay segment. However, what has changed as they get ready to go on to their final lap of this first race. They'll do 17 laps under race speed in race number 1. I suspect to be the same in race number 2, given they're the same length. Hendricks is being closed up to by Meilleur and also Polasek. So 1 minute to go. To the line he goes. A lap 17, the last lap, the white flag waves. And will Hendricks be able to hold on here to make it his first win in some time, well, we will see. And well, meanwhile behind, well, we do have a change of position. In fact, that's 2 wide, going through turn number 7 into 8. And that's going to be Fred Ridgely going around the outside of Carl Trost there. And will take third place in the Delta class off him at least for now. So Trost losing out. And we just catch the tail end of that move. But brave move there for Fred Ridgely. And well, can we get a quick look back at it? I don't think we can, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, given time. But what we do have time to do is take a look at the battle here between Meilleur and Polasek. And well, as they come out towards turn number 5 right now, Polasek really has been waiting the entire race to try and go for this, and right now still no way. And there's Dan McFarlane, still has the close company of Ray to you, and to you right now 2 tenths and closing. Is Ray going to try something different here in this one? The answer's going to be no. He does the exact same, which is follow, but to be fair, that's all you can do for those corners, although he's definitely itching for that move. You can see the way he's positioned the car. But as he now looks the inside here, and well, within a tenth at this point, if Tu's going to go for it, it's now he's going to do it. Onto the brakes they go, looks up the inside, and well, it's going to be a fine turns in, given the space. 2 wide to come over the rise, and down in towards turn number 7, and McFarlane still holds on to 5th overall, and still the Gamma leader with it. But meanwhile, at the front of the field, 3 corners becomes 2. There becomes 1 more to go for Micah Hendricks as he makes his way over the bridge right now. And Meilleur and Polasek stay exactly as they are. But last time out in season 16 was when we saw a win for Hendricks overall at Alton Park. But here today, it's another win of the season for Micah Hendricks. And it is going to be his 38th career win as he crossed the line ahead of Matthew Meilleur. And Michael Polasek will complete the podium. It will then be Wojciech Swirydowicz who comes on through for 4th place. And it is going to be a 4th Gamma win of his career for Dan McFarlane. 5th overall, a great result ahead of Ray to you. Francois Schick will then come through for the Senior Machinery in 7th place overall, ahead of Cooper Akers, who is absolutely ecstatic to be on the Gamma podium, and 8th overall ahead of Logan McKenzie. Chris McDonald completes the Gamma podium in 10th ahead of Zach Hadarko, who takes the Delta win ahead of Zachary Bowman and Tyler Long. And Tyler Long loses out in the late stages with John Daniels in 14th, and Fred Ridgely just absolutely disrupts what could have been a 1-2-3 for T0 Race and Ascent in the Delta podium by taking 3rd in the class, 15th overall, and he'll be your pole sitter for race number 2. And Carl Trost losing out there was 16th place ahead of Damon Mitchell, and it'll be Mark Darnell in 18th place ahead of Jerry Barber, who I do believe just got a little bit of time before he gets to his finish line. In fact, here he is right now, carried on. So Barber right now hasn't given up. He's still pushing on, which is great to see, but his race has definitely got a bit backwards rather than forwards. But to be fair, he's still finishing the race and will get some very valuable points, and 6th place in Delta as well. So it's not as though he's picked up a bad score for this one with 19th overall. And in fact, he will gain some very valuable ground on his rivals. Niklas Svedska and also Corey Lobner have finished their races a lap down, both of them 21st and 22nd respectively. But as Barber makes his way to line, and well, I think the car running low on fuel there. Shepka will take the position off him, so it is going to be 19th for Shepka, and in the end, Jerry Barber will finish in 20th instead. Well, how about that, ladies and gentlemen? And with that, that is race number 1 complete. But what a race it has been. Our first race of the day. Plenty of drama, plenty of excitement. And well, now let's bring you back to those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries in preparation for race number 2. And as we can see, after our first 25-minute race on the streets of Chicago, definitely consisted of a big pair of incidents right at the start, and also some brilliant batting throughout the entirety of the race, and some very close calls. Well, Micah Hendricks taking his first win of season 17, but indeed, he's had some personal wins this season, but nothing's quite like taking an overall and an alpha win with it. And well, that is going to be his 38th career win for Croc Promotions by 8 tenths of a second over Matthew Meilleur. The Airshark G-Drive did brilliantly to hold of Michael Polasek for the whole distance. The Yellow Flag Motorsport Drive in the end had to settle for 3rd, with Beaver and D's Wojciech Swirydowicz in 4th place ahead of Dan McFarlane. The Sim Racing Grid driver fending off Raymond to you for the entirety of the race, and then taking 5th overall, and the Gamma win with it ahead of Francois Schick, with the Kirby Enthusiasm Autosport driver taking 7th place. Then Pennzoil Super Touring's pair of Cooper Akers and Logan McKenzie were 8th and 9th, with the 2nd place Gamma driver fended off his teammate, and then we did see Chris McDonald complete the Gamma podium with 10th place there for Croc Promotions, and some very valuable points that will help him reassert himself at the top of the standings, at least after this race. And Zach Hadarko, we got the upper hand in the early stages of the race versus Delta rival and teammate of Tyler Long, and therefore took the Delta win. And Zachary Bowman taking 12th there. Yellow Flag Motorsport splitted the pair. Long in the end had to settle for 13th, but 2nd in class. And given the fact that we do have a top 15 inversion coming up, he won't be too upset about that. And he's at sister team driver T0 Racing Summit, John Daniels, 14th there. But the pole sitter for race number 2 coming up shortly will be the 3rd place Delta finisher in this one, Fred Ridgely there for S-Shark G, taking that 15th for Carl Trost in the closing stages Teachers with a daring move around the outside of turn 7 into 8, and in the end, Trolls turns himself for 16 for 9 now. He's got it all to do from 16th place, not from pole position. The T0 Racer Ascent drive was 4 seconds ahead of Damon Mitchell for Crop Promotions, and then we did see Mark Dennell for Gator Racing 10 seconds behind, but comfortably clear of Matthew Shepka and Jeremy Barber, who completed their races despite difficult starts. That was your top 20. And outside the top 20, 21st place, a lap down, Nicholas Shvedska, and the Shvedska racing driver ahead of Corey Lobner, who was also a lap down there, and it was 2 laps down to Zach Saunders, the pole sitter in Delta, with that incredible 7th place overall, but it all went wrong right at the start. And for the Japanese driver, knowing now he's got all the work to do in race number 2, but we look forward to seeing how he can carve his way through. And Gareth McAllister there, 4 laps down, 1 lap ahead, and Major Bonsai, who was 5 laps down, will be your last classified finisher of the race for T0 Racing Summit. And then we did have retirements for John Lauzon, Fleet Smith, Jason Lidd, and a non-start for Nick Bader. For goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, what a first race. So the great news is if you enjoyed that one, we've got another one to come. Race number 2, another 25-minute sprint race coming up very shortly. We're almost running to schedule, and all drivers absolutely itching to chop another 25 minutes or 17 laps of the Chicago Street Circuit off. And indeed, we look forward to seeing who exactly is going to come away victorious the next time round. But as the warm-up period continues, we've just got a couple more minutes of that warm-up period to go. And our driver's definitely getting some practice right now. Well, we're just going to take a quick sip of water here because it's getting very hot in the commentary booth in preparation for the second race, and also to make sure that we're all set and ready to go for the second one. Because something tells me if race number 1 has been an absolute show of drama and a demonstration of brilliant street racing, well, race number 2 is going to see the ante only increase, because understandably, when it's race number 2, there's plenty more at stake compared to race number 1, because everyone now knows what the pace of every other driver is. Everyone knows exactly where to overtake and where not to. But of course, in race number 2, with everyone knowing the knowledge, it makes that overtaking just a little bit more difficult, and suddenly it really becomes very nitty-gritty of racing action. As our water has been acquired, ladies and gentlemen, the good news is that teases us right up into going into our second race today. As we do wait on the side of Columbus Drive, it is time for race number 2 here on the streets of Chicago. Another 25 minutes. Who's going to take our second wins of the day? Let's find out as we head to the grid. And so as they make the way onto the grid, let's remind you how they all line up for our second race in Chicago. And it's going to be Ferdinand Ritchie, who takes the top 15 inverted pole position for S-Shark G, and the Delta pole sitter will be joined on the front row by the Gamma pole sitter of John Daniels for T0 Racing Summit. Then we do have T0 Racing Ascents, Tyler Long, starting third, and joined on the second row by Zachary Bowman for Yellow Flag Motorsport. And that theme of Deltas on the left, Gammas on the right will continue. Goodness me, this sounds like as though it's a bar fight, as it's going to be Zach Hodako starts in 5th place there for T0 Racing Ascent, and Crop Promotions Gamma driver there of Chris McDonald starts in 6th. Logan McKenzie then breaks up the Deltas on the left of the grid, and it's an Alpha on the left now, as it will be Logan McKenzie there for Pennzoil Super Touring ahead of his teammate of Cooper Akers. And then we will see on row number 5, an all Alpha row, Francois Sheik for Kirby Fuses Motorsport ahead of Beaver and Deez's Ray to You. They complete your top 10. Outside the top 10, starting 11th place, it's Dan McFarlane for Sim Racing Grid. Ahead of Beaver and D's is Wojciech Swirydowicz. And then we'll see Michael Polasek for Yellow Flag Motorsport starting 13th. He's ahead of the man who definitely proves to be troublesome for him in race number 1, Matthew Meilleur. And the S-Shark G driver then be followed up by your winner of race number 1. Can he now go for his 39th career overall win? It will be, of course, Micah Hendricks of Crop Promotions. Just outside the top 15, therefore starting where he finished in race number 1, it's Carl Trost, the 4th of your Delta drivers at T0 Racing Ascent. Head of Crop Promotions, Damon Mitchell. Watch out for him. He should be fighting his way forward after a difficult race number 1. And Mark Darnell will join him on that 9th row for Gator Racing. But on the 83, it'll be the 490 of Matt Shepka for Kirby Enthusiasm Autosport ahead of UMAT and Motorsports, Jeremy Barber. And outside the top 20, 21st on the grid, it'll be Nicholas Shvedska for Shvedska Racing, who had that very difficult end to his opening lap after being collected in the instant with Shepka. And we'll see Corey Lobner join him on that 11th row, the privateer in the Delta class. It's an all-Delta row number 12 in the form of Zach Saunders, the privateer. And as we said earlier on, he is expected to be the quickest driver in Delta here today after that qualifying performance. So where will he be by the end of this one? We'll have to wait and see. And Gareth McAllister will join him there in 24th place UMAT and Motorsport. It's an all-Gamma row 13, Major Bod Survivor for T0 Racing Summit ahead of John Lauzon for Beaver and D's. And then we do have Fleet Smith for B4D starting 27th on this grid. And then we will see in the last of the starting positions, Jason in for Gator Racing. And unfortunately, as we confirmed earlier on, Nick Bader will not be taking part in the races today. He's a spectator, so it's only 28 cars that make the way to the grid, but a slot will be reserved at the back for his absent Elantra. So they're all in position, ladies and gentlemen. We're all set to go for the second time today, and well, it's now down to the front of the field we go for the lights. So as the revs rise and lights go on, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And it's lights out, away we go for the second time today here in Chicago. And as they roar the way down towards turn 1, Fred Ridgey gets a good start, but look in the middle, and that's going to be Tyler Long. Long's going to take the lead here from the second row. On the inside he goes. Lovely start there for Tyler Long. They all squeeze their way through the opening corner. But of course, it's the squeeze before it flows out, and then suddenly everyone will be back into the tight pack here as they come through. Goodness me, the solar glare off of the cars there. And well, this is a J.J. Abrams movie right now as they make their way up towards turn 3, but that's how the sun has fallen. And well, the spectacle goes on as they roar the way onwards, but no sign of drama this time. It seems they're heading towards turn 3, but as they roar the way onwards, well, right now the field will save them through, at least for now, and into the heavy breakdown of turn 4. We're going to see a bit of a squeeze here as they come into shot, and well, I think everyone's saved them through there. 2 by 2 they go. Brady fighting hard there with Chris McDonald immediately trying to get past the Gamma driver, and Hugh gained 2 places at the start, and now he wants even more, but McDonald's not letting him go. They're going to go 2-1 up towards turn 6. McDonald on the right, Hugh on the left, and who's going to get the upper hand? It will be the Audi or the Honda, and the answer is going to be it's the Honda that gains the upper hand as Dan McFarlane goes to the attack. David Mitchell had a good start as well, up from 17th to 16th on the back there of Hendricks, and Hendricks has not gained or lost any places so far, playing it passive as Wojciech Swirydowicz. Oh, there's a bit of contact to the rear of his car. Oh, they're going to make contact there, and that's Akers almost been turned sideways by Meillier's car. Michael Polasek getting involved in that as well. He's been turned sideways again. He's being pushed around like a pincushion right now. It's Cooper Akers, and the 29 keeps it points on the straight and narrow, but it's going to be 3 wide coming up towards turn 10. You don't go 3 wide there. They make sense of it in the end, and Meilleur and Polasek both squeeze their way through, and well, Akers being hurried around by Meilleur and also Polasek, all in quick fashion. We'll get a quick replay of that when we can, but meanwhile Fleet Swift being passed by Matthew Shepka. That happened just slightly off camera there in the fight for 19th place, but as they come down, everyone goes line astern into turn 12, so 1 lap down, plenty more to go, and it's Swirydowicz originally who's having to chase this man, Tyler Long, the leader currently, with Zach Bowman in third just behind. Then we do have John Daniels second of your Gammas, behind the Gamma leader of Bowman. Was that Hidalgo in 5th place. Right now the T0 race and set driver will definitely know he's got a bit of work to do. We've got Logan McKenzie, Alpha leader, but that means naught because he only scores points based on overall position if you're an Alpha. Well, right now he's the leader. The Alpha's in 6th place, ahead of Francois Schick and Ray Tew. And well, hold the phone on that one because here comes a move from Bobby Bowman at the inside of Ridgely. And Bowman then squeezes one through. You can see John Daniels. My good lord, John, you can't be doing that. That was very aggressive there to try and make a move on Ridgely. It didn't quite work out, but they make the way onwards right now. Here comes Logan McKenzie. And McKenzie says if you're going to play like that, as it goes wrong in the rear of the pitch there, not quite sure who for, but somebody's been turned around. We'll come back to that very shortly as Logan McKenzie now on the inside gets his way past John Daniels, and John Daniels right now definitely losing out as meanwhile Francois Schick goes for a move around the outside as well. Well, what they say, beat a man when he's down, and right now Francois Schick definitely trying to put the pressure on Daniels, and he'll get him past around the outside, and John Daniels has gone from being fighting for 3rd place and suddenly dropping all the way down to 6th place. The pace continues as Tew now queues up behind him, but look at the queue that Ray Tew's got built up behind him. Zach Hidalgo, Chris McDonald, Dan McFarlane, Wojciech Swirydowicz, and Swirydowicz right now, I don't know if he's got a bus to catch, but he's absolutely flying in Swirydowicz. Such as the speed here he's trying to demonstrate right now, and I think he's trying to really make up what was that difficult start to race number 1 in the fact that with a car that has been fully repaired. I think he did have some front right damage on the car in race number 1 that held his pace back. Well, right now he's trying to make sure that Meilleur and Polasek doesn't get any closer to him. But as they head on towards another lap, we look back to Gareth McAllister, who's got Nicholas Shredska and Jason Lynn for company, and Shredska in the absolutely lovely livery machine as McAllister pulls the pit lane, and I wonder when McAllister's got some damage to the car that he wants to repair. But here comes Jason Lynn for a move, and well, our photographer for this series, of course, as part of Glass and Steel Photography and Design, a great race and a great photographer as well, and I definitely think right now he's going to be thinking as he goes around, right, I'll get a photo of that later on, but he doesn't want to be thinking about that. He wants to snap up the places, not snap some images as he makes his way through turn number 2, but as he comes through, falls a little bit back there for Shredska, and Shredska staying safe. Meanwhile, Logan McKenzie now under a bit of pressure here from Francois Schick. Schick getting closer as we look back from the rear of the Pennzoil Super Touring driver in 4th place at this time. And we'll Schick there in the Sia Audi. He definitely like to say Sia to McKenzie, but I don't think he's going to be given that opportunity straight away. For that, there is Hendricks versus Polasek. Hendricks trying to go around the outside of Polasek there for 13th place. So Hendricks now getting a little bit bitey, but to be fair, I think he's just let the car come into temperature with regards to the tyres and brakes and realising the fact it's a 25-minute race. was it is a relatively short race. To be fair, this race does feel quite long when you've got this amount of cars all together, so therefore you can play a little bit tactically here compared to other sprint races that we've seen, such as example at Barber Motorsports Park, where sometimes it really is you've got to get a move on. But here today the field isn't spreading that much. The pace delta between drives is not that significant, so every place can be made quite gradually. As down at far lane and Wojciech Swirydowicz, they look at a bit of an altercation, but Swirydowicz backs out that one, realising that 2 does not go into 1 at that distance. I think a lunge might be coming at some point there, as meanwhile John Daniels still has got the pressure of Hidalgo behind him, but the T0 rated Summit driver wants to make sure that the ascent machine does not come through, at least for now. But I think for Daniels, he's battling upstream at this point, and therefore it does seem as though Hidalgo wants his move, but when's he going to go for it? I wonder what the team orders are between the sister teams. Are they allowed to fight, or are they required to work together as much as possible? I think they would like to work together, and that's what Hidalgo's doing right now, understandably going to the outside line. I just wonder if there's a fault going on, as meanwhile 2 wide here, that's Hendricks on the inside of Polasek. So Hendricks is going to make that move there for 13th place and makes way past Polasek, and Hendricks right now, where it's just this circuit or whether he's had his Weetabix of the day, I can tell you one thing, Micah Hendricks is absolutely the quickest driver out there on the streets of Chicago right now, clear air, and he's making moves, and taking on Polasek like that, that is not easy. But meanwhile, coming back towards the front of the field, it's going to be 3 wide on the break in here towards turn number 7, and that's going to be for an originally been passed there by Francois Schink, and Logan McKenzie, I think, had also just gotten through as well. So McKenzie made the move at turn 6, Schink made the move at 7, and now Ridgely falls to 5th, and now he's got Ray 2 for close company. As we ride aboard here, as the sun definitely sets, and therefore the shadows become more and more pronounced. Oh, that's a great start. Whoa, Dew looks up the inside. Oh, who's parked up there? Oh, no, is that? Is that Cooper Akers parked up? I think it might be. And yes, it is. I'm not quite sure what he's doing there, but something's gone very wrong. And for Cooper Akers, it's all gone a bit backwards. But we're going to shortly go backwards in time to get some replays of some big moments, including that for Akers. But right now, we're going to stay with the live racing, ladies and gents, because this race is definitely getting very fast and furious. But as we do see there, Wojciech Swirydowicz still off to down at far lane. Well, John Daniels right at the head of this group right now, and he's under a bit of pressure, but here comes Swirydowicz on the inside, goes all in versus McFarlane, and McFarlane in the end 2 wide as they exit out, down towards turn number 2 they go, and right now McFarlane's not going to give up on this one, he wants to hold the position if he can, but Swirydowicz on that outside line grazes the wall very briefly, and Swirydowicz will get the better power out the corner, plus he's got the distant toe there off of McDonald's car. I think Swirydowicz will just about get that move done, as now Meilleur looking around the outside, and also Hendricks is getting involved. Here comes Hendricks up the inside, he's going to go for the move on Meilleur, then backs out on such a tight line into turn 4, that's not going to work otherwise, and he would end up going towards the inside barrier very aggressively, but definitely chop and change coming shortly as we are John Daniels has had a poor run out of turn at number 5, and here comes Chris McDonald then, looking around the outside. Daniels on the right of your picture, McDonald on the left, in towards the left-hander from the driver's perspective they go. Bit of a squeeze there, and McDonald tried to get on in, but realised in the end that you can only squeeze a car so much, and suddenly they all fan out here. It's going to be 3 wide on the break, and that's Dan McFarlane on the inside. Oh my goodness, he goes all in. It's going to be 2 wide coming out the corner, and Dan McFarlane, what a move to get all the way through and make it up essentially 3 place on the spot. McFarlane up into 8th place there, and well, there was an award for overtaking the season. Give it to that man right now. I don't think you can see anything more daring than that this season, although to be fair, that's a bit presumptuous of me. But Matthew Meilleur still fighting hard here with Chris McDonald trying to go around the outside, and he's trying to show you can go just 2 wide around the outside as you can on the inside. Goodness me, whatever they've had between races 1 and 2, it's definitely fired everybody up. And here's Hendricks looking up the inside of Polasek, or should we really say Polasek trying to come back at Hendricks here around the outside, but here they go on to another lap, and right now this is absolutely crazy. This is classic touring car racing action. You love to see it, but as we can see there, that is going to be Meilleur on the inside. There's contact between himself and McDonald. That's not what you love to see. McDonald sent to the barrier. He's not too happy about that at all, is Chris. And right now, I can imagine that he's going to be fuming as he comes back in and makes contact with Zach Saunders, an innocent bystander in the situation, it would seem. And unfortunately, the privateer, after race 1 went wrong, Saunders was gradually making progress, and it's all now regressed to the pit lane. And I think a bit of a red temper there from Chris McDonald, and unfortunately, in the circumstances, well, he's going to look back at that one afterwards and think, okay, it was right to get annoyed on what happened there between himself and what's the Alpha driver, but was it right to get annoyed to the point where he went into contact with the Delta driver? Well, I get it. I've been there as a racing driver, ladies and gentlemen. I can tell you one thing. In the heat of the moment, when the red mist descends, particularly in touring car racing, you do not want to be around that driver. You suddenly just ignore everything, but of course the stewards won't like that, and I suspect there might be a word in the stewards room afterwards around that one, although I know Chris, a very clean driver, but unfortunately in that situation, I think just the circumstances getting a little bit too much for him, but we all make those mistakes, ladies and gentlemen. That's why, although I'm slightly finger pointing the cardinal rule I hate to have in the commentary booth, I understand that Chris there, like anyone would, just trying to get himself settled back down immediately. But meanwhile, as we do make our way up towards turn number 11, And roll all through. Michael Polasek attacking Hendricks and Meilleur still. And, well, in fact, Matthew Meilleur slowing down. Now, has he picked up a slowdown from somewhere, or is he trying to give places back? Interesting. So Meilleur's coming into the pit lane, in fact, so he's given up the spots there to come into the pit. And, well, whatever's happened to Meilleur's car, I believe that contact with Donald, well, suddenly it has headed down the pit lane. In fact, has he just picked up a drive-through penalty, has Meilleur, or is he actually coming to a stop here? No, he's coming to a stop. But meanwhile, let's not stop the racing action from continuing. And for now, Richie and Zach Hidako together as they make their way onwards. And Hidako right now on the back here. And now Richie keeping his head down. But this is the battle for second place in the Delta class. And now Ridgely definitely feeling the pressure after being passed earlier on and being shuffled down the order, and Hidako would like an opportunity. In fact, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, Hidako has actually lost out of this bit. In fact, no, he is not. He is going on the attack. My apologies. We were right the first time, and now Ridgely is the one who's having to defend here. Because so much has happened in this race. Trying to keep track is absolutely tantamount to understanding the story, and we're struggling at that. But as Hidako looks around the outside, and Ridgely going defensive again here, the SRG driver. Doing everything right so far, but here comes Hidako on the switchback. He backs out there going through the curve, and no, it's not going to be any way through at the Chicago curve as they head up towards turns 10 and 11. But with that, ladies and gents, we do get a bit of a brief respite. We are going to take a look back at some of the big moments from the first half of this race. And it all began with Jeremy Barber having a difficult start to his race. He made his way out of turn number 1 towards the back of the field as he headed in towards that braking zone for turn number 2. Car just goes straight on there. Braking issue for Jeremy Barber, and I suspect that car in the end struggling. I wonder if he had to tow to the pits afterwards. But on that number 2, we had this big incident for Cooper Akers. This was the incident we saw in the background, but we never really got to see. So Akers side by side here with, oh, goodness me, and who was that with? Was that with Damon Mitchell? I think it was. And then it almost leading to a completely blocked road there. I wanted to slam on the brakes immediately. And this is what it looked like from Damon Mitchell's perspective. It was Mitchell with him, so into the corner they went. And as they did so, in the 2 wide, there was somebody who had to back out, or it was going to happen. And unfortunately for both drivers, they neither one wanted to back out, and it all went wrong. Fleet Smith was a bit further behind, and so was Major Monsavai. This is what it looked like from Monsavai's perspective. Now, of course, he's a long way back, the T0 Racing Summit driver, but he's going to see a 2 wide goes in there briefly as he comes through. Suddenly, everyone's stamping on the brakes here. He's probably wondering what's going on. And unfortunately, it's Fleet Smith on the rear, so they all come into the scene of the incident very quickly. But well done to everyone for trying to stop up as quickly as they could on that one. But unfortunate there, between our 2 drivers battling for position, it all just went a bit wrong. Now, Carl Trost, meanwhile, he was involved in a separate incident for T0 Racing Summit. In fact, parking the car up, I think he was caught up in that big traffic jam, and unfortunately had to tow the car to the pit lane with the damage. So that's what happened to Trost. We then had this for Cooper Akers a lap later. So he'd already had it go wrong in his battle with Damon Mitchell, as we understand it. And then coming up towards turn number 3, went into the corner, went in too quickly and had to stop the car. And at that point, had nowhere to go other than to get it off the road because the whole lead field was coming on through. So they had to make a decisive call and did it perfectly. Then, of course, we did have this one between Zach Saunders and Chris McDonald. And Chris McDonald, of course, had been elbowed out there at turn number 1. So, understandably, seeing the red mist, went into the corner. And unfortunately for him, with Saunders on the outside of the course, the question will be, could Saunders actually come across there given McDonald was there? It's a very difficult one to call from the stewarding perspective. And, well, understandably, not a net positive light painted on McDonald. And Saunders, to agree there, will feel as though he was an innocent party in all of it. And then we had this for Corey Lobner on lap number 6. And this was Lobner, the CFR privateer, making his way through turn number 4. And as he did so, the rear of the car let it go there. And a big hit to the barrier. After that, the suspension just completely fallen apart. And for Lobner, it all fell apart just like that. But of course, with all the big shunts, we of course had this absolutely insane sequence from Dan McFarlane. And this was Dan McFarlane putting off an absolutely magical miracle move here as he made his way over the hill. And, well, 3 wide. Chris McDonald in the middle, and on the outside was the Honda of John Daniels. And in the end, Chris McDonald was squeezed there and biffed and boffed around by Wojciech Swirydowicz as well. And Dan McFarlane making up 3 places in the space of 1 braking zone. You don't see that on Chicago. Well, you have now, ladies and gentlemen. What a move there from Dan McFarlane. And, well, understandably, things got very hot-tempered between Meilleur and McDonald afterwards. And this was, of course, the big moment. We're going to continue this theme to show you the full picture, where in the end it was going to be McDonald getting ahead of Meilleur and Polasek battling with Hendricks. They rolled the one out, and Polasek looking to come back, but not quite working out. But with that, we now head back to your live racing pictures. And as we do cover back, well, we've still got 11 minutes or so to go of this race and still some big battles to play out. And we come back at the perfect time to see the battle for the overall lead. Who's going to be an overall winner? Will it be Tyler Long or will it be Zach Bowman? With 4.5 seconds between themselves and Logan McKenzie, well, it could be either one of these drivers right now, and well, either one would absolutely deserve it, no doubt about it. And to put you in perspective, in terms of Tyler Long, he has never had an overall win. His best result has been a 6th place. It was last season, round number 2 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And meanwhile, for Bowman, by comparison, has he ever had an overall win, I hear you ask? And the answer is going to be to that question. No, he's not had an overall win as well. So both of these drivers going for it. Of course, Bowman has finished 2nd before. That was in what was round number 2 earlier this season at St. Petersburg. But right now, neither driver's taken an overall win, but will one do it today? As meanwhile, Nicholas Shved's go around the outside there of Mark Darnell. So that's going to be for 12th place. Are there any other battles going on? We've got plenty others going on as well. And Polasek right now ahead of Shepka and Fleet Smith there with them. But Polasek has been dropped by Hendricks, so therefore he slipped back. And I think whilst we were looking at the replay footage, that's been a bit of a moment for Polasek that just caused him to fall away from the other Alpha drivers. So therefore, things have fallen back a little bit as they make their way over the bridge and down. But as they do, Shepka, Smith together, and Shvedska a lot further back by comparison. But Shepka and Smith fight over 3rd place in the class. Oh, hold up a second. Dan McFarlane's into the pit lane. Is that a black flag? Is that a drive-through penalty? I think it is. And Sonny, Shepka and Smith are now fighting for 2nd place in Gamma and 9th overall. You couldn't make this up. The twists in the tail right now are absolutely not constant. Shepka and Smith now 9, they've got an extra place back. And whoa, I wonder if at the moment they're probably thinking to themselves, are we actually fighting for the winning Gamma, and perhaps not aware of the fact that Bowman's so far up the road that they probably can't see him on the relative, but I'm sure they are probably aware that Bowman's in a world of his own at the moment. Not because he's proven to be the fastest necessarily, but the way the grid's played out and all the battles that have really split the field up. But the Yellow Flag Motorsport drivers definitely find a fierce contender in Tyler Long for his first overall win, and Long wants it just as much, but we'll have to wait and see over the remaining 9 minutes who's going to be the one who gets that victory. As they continue, Francois Schink chasing after Logan McKenzie, and well, for Schink, this would be a return to an overall podium. We haven't seen that in a while. Should he bring home that 3rd place? He's just got to get past Logan McKenzie for it, and Ray Tew as well is watching on just behind. But we've had quite a few retirements in this race. We have lost. Oh, hold up a second. We've had a car go round, and that's at turn number 11. Tyler Long losing it under braking by looks of things. Was he aiding that adventure? I don't know, but for Tyler Long, surely not. Surely it's not going to be heartbreak here for the 767 driver, the man who in the end brought home a podium in the Delta Class in race number 1. It is going to be heartbreak. He's going to the pit lane, and well, if he can get that car repaired, how far is it going to drop him down? Where's Mark Darnell? Let's look to the blimp camera. Here is Darnell right now coming through turn number 11. So, Long, I suspect, is going to come out at the back end of what would be the Delta podium order at the moment. Jason Lynn makes his way around as well. And where is Long at the moment? He's coming to the end of the pit lane, and well, he's going to be serviced there. It'll be a very fast repair. So in fact, he might still be Delta leader. There he goes. Where's Darnell? There's Darnell. It's going to be side by side between the two of them coming out of the pit lane. There's Long. There's Darnell. And suddenly the Delta leads up for grabs here, and Darnell just squeezes ahead. And the 83 driver here, I don't know if he's going to quite believe it right now. Suddenly he's up into 11th place overall, which will be a huge result for Darnell, but the most important thing for him is this could be a Delta win for him. And well, when you look back at his career, Darnell, he has only taken 2 Delta wins in his time in the ATC, the last one coming all the way back 2.5 years ago in season 10 in round 6 of the Yokohama International Circuit. So right now for Darnell, this would definitely be a result that's going to mean a huge amount to him. But for Tyler Long, given the way the championship's going right now, he wants this result himself, of course, in the fact that he really wants to open up the lead versus Adarko and the rest of the field. But there was a question mark over what exactly happened, and here is a quick replay to explain, ladies and gentlemen. So this was Bowman versus Long, then going in towards turn number 11. Into the braking zone they went, and as they did, it was contact there. We could hear the crunch to the rear bumper. And unfortunately for Zach Bowman, coming a bit too hot on the brakes, and after that, he has to go on there. That's not him being rude. That is, if I park up to try and give him the place back, I'm going to cause a traffic jam. You have to let it go at that point. But for Zach Bowman, there will definitely be a cloud hanging over his race now as we head back to your live racing. And as we do come on back, well, understandably, that cloud could be in the form of a post-round penalty that could suddenly see that first win of his career taken from him, depending on how close Logan McKenzie is at the finish. And even if it's a 5-second penalty, it would be enough to spoil the party and hand the overall victory to McKenzie. But still, what's happened has happened. And as a driver, you've got to think to yourself, okay, I might have the stewarding book thrown at me afterwards, but on the road at least, I've got to get my head down and see if I can open up enough of a gap to be safe from whatever penalty I do get, should it be deemed a penalty. Of course, the cameras suggest what we tell you on the the broadcast, ladies and gentlemen, but the stewards have all the data available. They have the brake traces, they have essentially all the lap times, they have the closing speeds, they have all the camera angles you could take, whereas on the broadcast, of course, when we call things out, we can only call it as we see it, because we only have the camera angles and the replay footage that's available to us at the time. But right now, as the drives come through, we can see that McKenzie, Shing and Hugh all together still fighting over that second place. This is not going away at the moment, and understandably, something tells me that Logan McKenzie here might have to do a bit more digging in, and if he does have to do that, well, Sonny Bowman may be able to open up a bit more of a gap at the front of the field that could keep him safe later on. There's still 5.5 minutes to go here, and the ferocity of the battling has not stopped, and wherever you look at the battle, there's excitement to be had. Dan McFarlane as well on a recovery drive here after his trip to the pit lane, and it was for some repair work to the car. We have had a confirmation now with regards to the fact they have had to do some work to the car. He was stationary for 4 seconds in the pits, but his pit box was right at the end. So when he was going down, we thought it was a drive-through penalty. It was not. It was for repair work, and he's on the back of Jason Lynn for 13th place. And Lynn has come a long way out through the field as well in all of the madness that's played out. So therefore, everywhere you look, and Jason Lynn, of course, started from the very back of this one. But meanwhile, change of leading gamma, and that is Fleet Smith around the outside of Shepko, who defended to the inside into one. Smith taking it there, and Shepko, I wonder whether perhaps he put up a bit of a defence but didn't defend it as hard as he would have liked to, and I wonder if the senior driver is perhaps just struggling a little bit and perhaps thinking, I'd rather prioritise taking second place rather than having to dig in and perhaps cost myself a chance of bringing home the race results. McFarlane up the inside there of Lynn through turn number 2, so that's the 13th place, but Smith there passes Shepka, so that's a change, and well, an important one as, oh, hold up a second, we've lost Matthew Shepka from this race, ladies and gentlemen. What's happened to Shepka? We'll try and get a replay when we can. I think we are going to get a quick cut back, and here we go for a quick cut back in time, but that's disaster for Shepka for Sia, and here's what happened. So this was Shepka making his way along up towards turn number 4, and as he did so, carried a lot of speed in the rear of the car. Let go! Oh no, not for the senior driver. Shepka just can't get a break and immediately got out the car straight away to make sure he didn't block the road. And Fleet Smith right now, he'll look back at it and think that's not the way he wanted it to go, but suddenly, second place in the Gamma class being handed into the hands of Shepka just like that, into the hands of Fleet Smith, I should say, just like that, and it all fell out of the hands of Shepka. Well, with that, back to your live racing. Still 3.5 minutes left on the clock. We just had another twist in the tail. And well, I don't want to put the commentator's curse on anyone, ladies and gentlemen, but it seems as though right now this really is one of those races where anything can happen. It normally does, and it's not over until they cross that finish line. The checkered flag may wave, but if they don't get past it, they're not classified as finishing, or it's really the timing line there. And well, if you're wondering, that yes, there are certain circuits around the globe, including here in the United Kingdom, where the checkered flag is waved from versus where the finish line are actually two separate things. And the reason I know that is because I do know a couple of drivers in real life who've actually thought they finished the race at the checkered flag, only to find out they backed off, they've lost a place, and then found out the timing line is about 10 metres up the road. And well, some stories there. But meanwhile, come back to what's on the screen, and we can see Mark Darnell still holding tight along at bay. Remember, for Darnell, a third Delta win in his career is potentially on the cards here today, and a very important one at that for the Gator Racing driver. Can he hold on? 3 minutes left on the clock, and for him, it translates into another 2 laps after this one because our leaders are already making their way through turn at number 11. But here looks long in his Elantra, looking up the inside, the battle of the Elantras. Here he goes all in, and as they go too wide through the corner, well, Darnell's going to be on the inside now down towards turn number 7, but has he got enough confidence on the brakes to beat Long at the braking game? The answer is no. He lets it go. So for Ty Long, he returns the Delta lead, and now for Long, all he's got to do at this point is hold on just a little bit longer, and it would be a double podium here today in the Delta class, if my memory serves me correctly. For Ty Long, it'll be an absolutely huge pair of results to extend his championship lead, but can he get it home? We'll have to wait and see. As meanwhile, Matthew Shepka, I believe his car has now left the pit lane after all the repair work that's been done following the tow. And meanwhile, Jeremy Barber having a bit of difficulty at turn number 1, we're hearing in my ear. And we do see his car being recovered, but I do believe that's him, where he should slow down coming out the pit lane to respect the fact he's come out a lap down, essentially, to a few drives, so therefore not wanting to impede or obstruct. But more fighting to come. Francois Shing and Ray Tew on the penultimate lap, lap 16 of 17. And, well, as they head downwards there, you can see it's a bit further up the road. Bowman, then there's McKenzie, and then we have Shing and Tew. So McKenzie has left his 2 rivals for what is a bit of distance, and the big battle now is all about who is going to be third overall. The second of the Alphas, but that means nothing. It's the podium, that third place, but overall that matters most, because there's no bonus points for Alpha drivers in this series other than the overall bonus points for likes of the fastest lap in the race. And Shing right now, holding off to you by half a second, but you definitely staying well within touching distance. Fleet Smith, meanwhile, on the back of Michael Polasek. And, well, for Smith, still looking to make a bit more progress here before this race is done. He's already left behind where Shepka after Shepka's demise and Nicholas Svedska a bit further back. And in fact, for Nicholas Svedska, this is going to be a really good result for him actually bring this home, because I believe, we're just double checking this, ladies and gentlemen, this could be a season best in Gamma for him. And well, as he makes his way onwards, right now, Svedska in the Gamma machine. His best performance has been a third place in the Gamma class in the past. It would match his previous best, but overall, it beat his 11th place that we saw in round number 4 at Miami. It'll be a 9th place here today, so he'd be very happy going with that. But white flag ways, and well, he's got 5 seconds to tie along. Who you see in the rear of the picture. Behind him is Cooper Akers, who's a lap down, so he doesn't have to worry about Akers in this situation whether he lets him go or not. Jason Lynn, meanwhile, having a bit of a continuity issue, I believe. There he is, reappearing from the proverbial ether. And Dan McFarlane still chasing after Mark Darnell for 11th place. We can see there McFarlane close, but is he going to be able to find a move before this is all said and done? We'll have to wait and see on that one, as meanwhile, Michael Polasek still attacking here, and will still be an attack, we should say, as he's got clear road in front of him, but not behind him. And Fleet Smith right on his gearbox again. But the Yellow Flag Motorsport driver in the number 1 has been in this position a number of times and just holding his ground. Meanwhile, Dan McFarlane making a move on Mark Darnell there for 11th place. Darnell not wanting to fight that, I think just letting it go. So therefore, it's all just keeping it nice and safe. But as the clock strikes 0, ladies and gentlemen, and indeed our field makes one through, well, here is Zachary Bowman. And well, of course, there will be a big question mark about the instant that he did have earlier on with Tyler Long. But for now, at least, it is going to be a first career win overall for Zachary Bowman. And what a Gamma win it will be for him as well in the 654 as he crosses the line there for Yellow Flag Motorsports. And Logan McKenzie will be the runner-up for Pennzoil Super Touring ahead of Sears, Francois Schenk. Ray 2 will take 4th place ahead of Wojciech Swirydowicz in 5th. And it will be Micah Hendricks in 6th place there. Pipping Michael Polasek to the line as he comes up through. A lap down finish there for Shepka and McDonald in the foreground of the camera, but Polasek holds off Fleet Smith. Smith taking home 2nd place in the Gamma class in 8th overall, and it'll be Nicholas Svedska to take his best overall finish of his career. 9th place overall, matching a season best performance of 3rd place in Gamma. Tyler Long comes on through to take the win in the Delta class. Despite the incident between himself and Bowman, he still survived, and Dan McFarlane takes the 11th ahead of Mark Darnell with 2nd place in the Delta class. Couldn't quite be his 3rd Delta win, but he came close. Jason then takes the final spot on the Delta podium. Well done to Jason for that. That's very impressive. 13th overall. And Fuadal Ridge, he just finishes behind him, but ahead of John Daniels, who completes the top 15. It'll then be 16th place and Major Monsavai. And then we will have a bit of time before Gareth McAllister reaches the finish line. Here he comes. Give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. His teammate of Jeremy Barber cross line just before him, but a lap down. But Gareth McAllister will be your final lead lap finisher. Goodness me, what a race we've had here today. An incredible race, but this one won, at least on the road, by Zach Bowman. But as we say, we believe there will be a bit of a question mark in the stewards room about that contact with Tyler Long. But still for Bowman, let's let him enjoy the moment, ladies and gentlemen, because he's definitely worked hard here today. And if it stands, it will be his first overall win in his Alpha Touring Challenge career. And that'll be a huge achievement for him. Logan McKenzie, meanwhile, runner-up here. But to be fair, some big points to the Pennzoil Super Touring driver. And the most important thing, making sure to beat to the post was Wojciech Swirydowicz, Michael Polasek and Matthew Meilleur, with Meilleur in the end being caught out in that early instant and cost him so dear. John Daniels as well, having a happy day, 5th place in the Gamma class. He cools the car and down, and all these drivers definitely enjoyed themselves. And Micah Hendricks from 15th to 6th, and what a drive from him. Couldn't quite take the win, but to be fair, fought ferociously hard to make the progress. But as we look to the scenic view, well, let's take a look at those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. And as we can see, when the streets of Chicago roared alive for the 2nd time today in round number 6 of the Alpha Touring Challenge Season 17, powered by Syncmesh and Glass and Steel Photography and Design, brought to you in iRacing, Zach Bowman taking the overall win and the Gamma win with it for Yellow Flag Motorsport by 3.4 seconds, ahead of Pennzoil Super Touring's Logan McKenzie. Logan McKenzie was the highest placed Alpha, just ahead of Francois Schenk by, 8/10 of a second, and the CEO driver made sure to fend off Ray TU to the finish, with TU for Beaver and D's just ahead of his teammate of Wojciech Swirydowicz was a further 5 seconds behind. Mike Hendricks took 6th place, a further 2.6 seconds adrift, but just making sure to break away from Michael Polasek, and the Yellow Flag Motorsport driver had to dig in deep to make sure that Fleet Smith couldn't find a way through, and Smith made sure they were 2nd in the Gamma class as a result, but couldn't quite find a way for 7th overall versus Polasek. It was another podium, and indeed a matching best result of the season in class for Nicholas Svedska, but a career best overall finish for the 250 driver who makes his debut this season. Well done to the Svedska Racing driver, 9th overall there, and he'll be absolutely proud as punch with that one, with tied along. Your Delta winner, despite the huge scare towards the very end when he was chasing his first overall win of his career. What, a 10th place overall, not his best overall result, but definitely another Delta win, and a very valuable one for the T0 Racing Ascent trying to go his podium from race number 1. Dan McFarlane, best rest and length there for Sim Racing Grid, was only 1.2 seconds behind at the finish, and in turn, a best part of 1.4 seconds ahead of Mark Darnell. And the Gator Racing driver had no answer to Long, even though he did creep ahead when Long left the pit lane with the fast repair. But Darnell, in the end, I think, settled for second in the Delta class and 12th overall. And the Gator Racing driver lead on the home, a 2-3 on the Delta podium ahead of his teammate Jason Lynn. And remember, Jason Lynn came all the way through from the back of the field to finish 13th. What a drive from him, and a brilliant and a well-deserved Delta podium at that. Fernando Ricci for S-Shark G, 14th there, missing out on the Delta podium, but another good haul of points. He's really done well today despite his qualifying performance. And John Daniels at 15th there for T0 Racing Summit, just ahead of his teammate and Major Montserrat. 17th, it was Gareth McCann, your last lead lap finish of the race for UMAT Motorsport, and it was a lap down to see his Matthew Shepka, as it was to Chris McDonald and Jeremy Barber. And we also did see a lap down finishes there for Cooper Akers, and it was 9 laps down in the end for Zach Hodako, who'll be the first of your classified non-finishers. It was also a non-finish, and sadly for Matthew Meilleur, Zach Saunders, Corey Lobner, Carl Trost, Damon Mitchell, John Lauzon, and a non-start once again for Nick Bader. But what a pair of races we've had here today, ladies and gents, with excitement abounded, no doubt about that. And some of it definitely went across the line, and other bits were right on the very line. And we also got to see probably one of the most memorable overtakes now. And I'm sure for the season 18 show reel or intro that somehow the administration is going to find a way to get that move made by none other, as his name does escape my brain at the moment. He's literally impressed me so much, in fact, that his name has left my brain, ladies and gentlemen. And all that incredible move being made by Dan McFarlane, the 3-wide move in towards turn number 7, that's definitely going into a reel at some point. But there were so many moments there that could go into a show reel. But sadly, it does mean we have to wrap up our time down the streets of Chicago, as we do say goodbye to our final street race round for some time in the season. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. And if you have enjoyed today's show and you're sat there right now thinking, when the racing's this good, that you want to be on the grid for the Alpha Touring Challenge, whether it's the remainder of Season 17 or whether you want to get yourself signed up for Season 18, that's a long way away. Why not join us in Season 17? Or you just want to know more, if you want to know about the history, all the ins and outs and everything between, we have a complete compendium available for you. And of course, that is the official website at alphatouringchallenge.com. As seen on screen, you couldn't find a more complete compendium of all the information you need. All the latest news articles, all the rules, the regulations, the history, the Hall of Famers, all the broadcasts, all the replay files, going all the way back to our very first race over 5 years ago in Season 1. You name it, we've got it on the website, and indeed there's never been a better resource to get you underway, to get yourself up to speed with Alpha Touring Challenge history, and to get yourself on the grid, whether you're an esports professional all the way through to a rookie racer. There is a place for you in the Alpha Touring Challenge, we can promise you that. We'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our series partners. And that does, of course, include Syncmesh first and foremost. And tell you a little bit about them. Well, born out of the pursuit of one-man search for better gear for sim racing, Syncmesh is the company which provides purpose-built gear for sim racing, ranging from gloves through to a full line of performance wear. With an obsessive attention to detail in their gear, which aligns with your attention to detail in nailing lap after lap on the simulator, you could not ask for better gear to make your racing experience better. If you'd like to know more, do head to sync-mesh.com today. We'd also like to give a big thank you to our other series partner, and that is Glass and Steel Photography and Design. The Alpha Touring Change's official photographer, Jason Lynn, is a highly talented and approachable individual who provides both photography and livery design services for the iRacing simulator platform as part of the Glass and Steel Photography and Design services. And of course, you've seen plenty of those photos in the reel coming into today's broadcast, and I do believe you've also seen some of those liveries out there, including the livery on his own car. But to not just take our word for it, with 5-star reviews from his clientele citing him as easy to work with, detail-orientated, and a very fast responder. If you're looking for pixel-precise photography or a livery design to dominate the competition, then why not head to his website at glassnsteel1.wordpress.com today. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we've got time for today. And next time out, we complete our time in the USA for this season by making our way to the US state of Ohio for the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, the location where the corners are known as the Madness. And I'll tell you one thing, with an endurance race on the cards, strategy and overtaking action will definitely be maddening for many. But who exactly will leave the United States of America on top? We'll have to wait and see then, with all the racing action on Monday the 1st of June. But we'll be bringing it to you live from circuit side, well, post-round as if it were live from circuit side in round number 7 on Tuesday the 2nd of June 2026. And as we make our way into that round, what exactly have we seen today when it comes to the standings? Well, first and foremost, it is continuously a chop and change to the very front of the Overall Alpha Championship, and well, right now, understandably, Wojciech Swirydowicz will have struck back today, trying to get some big points to the board, but all of our Alpha drivers have had ups and downs. Meanwhile, in the Gamma class, it looks though Fleet Smith definitely has secured the points just to slightly improve his lead, but it's tightening between him, John Lauzon has had a dismal day at the office, and Chris McDonald, who's definitely tried to turn the frown upside down and into a smile, but it went a bit wrong at certain points. And meanwhile, in the Delta class, despite some late drama, Tai Long will definitely have extended his championship lead, and we'll have to wait and see how far he's moved it to going into next round. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, we've been the Alpha Touring Challenge, and I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. You've been tuning into a Paul Walsh production, and until mid-Ohio, as always, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, like our drivers, remember to stay on track. Good night.